It's time for another lap around the track with all the latest in motorsports interviews. Sometimes we get bent feelings, but we can't wait for the Bent Fender Podcast with your hosts, Nathan Conway and Wes Llewellyn.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Bent Fender Podcast. I'm Nathan Porkchop Conway. With me, as always, is Wes, the Mini Cup Llewellyn.
Mini Cup?
Yeah. We're going to ask, it's a type of race car, buddy, and it's kind of from days gone by, but we're going to ask our guest today, Blake Hillard, awesome enough to come on, man, accepted the invitation, was going to come on and get a little conversation with us about racing, which is our favorite thing to talk about here. So we're going to ask him about his days in the Mini Cup cars, and I think it'll be a pretty cool time.
I think you're right. We're sticking with the last actual guest we had was Donnie Fair, and
right.
Asphalt driver, but he did some dirt track driver, but he
right.
did some asphalt stuff. So we're going back, primarily to the world of asphalt with Blake.
Right.
He's got some concrete in his veins where you've got dirt in yours.
That's right. Well, from the banks up there at Kentucky Motor Speedway in Whitesville all the way to the high banks of Salem Speedway, and even beyond that, the Bristol Motor Speedway. Competed in a lot of different things, has driven several different type of cars. Right now, dominating in the the street stock, super street stock series. Up there at Salem Speedway and beyond. So it's going to be a fun time, man. We're going to have a good conversation with him. And, we appreciate him accepting our invitation and not just throwing it in the trash. But I'm glad we didn't send it by mail because it makes it a whole lot easier.
It does. And, we're always grateful for people who want to give up their time and share stories with us and be part of this because it's a good thing that we do, and we enjoy doing it every chance we get.
Yeah.
Enjoy hearing all the different stories and meeting the different drivers. Me specifically, since a lot of times it's the first time I've met the drivers, and it's not getting that way to be. It's not that way so much anymore as I've been around it for a while now.
All right.
And it's kind of cool now that I can actually look at cars and be like, oh, I know that driver, and it's cool.
Yeah, it is a cool thing, man. And knowing what these drivers do and what kind of cars they drive and different walks of life, we a lot of times we hang out on the dirt, especially, a week or so ago at the Race on Memorial, Windy Hollow Speedway, and we were down there. Completely different atmosphere, when you take it over to the asphalt, and that's a good thing. I think there is a distinct difference as in racing surface, but the type of drivers and things like that hang around both are different walks of life.
Well, and it's not just the racing surface is different, but the kind of atmosphere and the attitude of the event is different. Dirt is a little bit more laid back. There's a little bit more time to hang around and get things done at your own pace. Whereas asphalt is kind of just hammer down from the time you pull into the pit gates until the time the qualifying happens, because
right.
You've got practice laps, you've got everything that you have to do between the time that you get there and the time you run.
Well, and that is true, and I found that out myself. Racing at Kentucky Motor Speedway a month or so ago, it was different. I'm not used to running practice laps and things like that. Sometimes you get a hot lap session right before you qualify or whatever on dirt, and a couple of laps, that's it. And during the day, in an asphalt day, you might have one practice session, might have two practice sessions, just depending on the day.
Right.
And to be able to go out there and run a few laps and come back in, change something on your car, go out and run a few more laps. It's different that way, I don't know if it's any better, any worse, given what you're doing. I think on dirt that's a lot harder to do just based on the track surface, and you're not able to, run all those laps on a dirt track because of the way it changes, and
right.
You got to stay up with changing track conditions anyway. But a lot harder and a lot more time to work a track, being able to do that, and so I think that's a hard thing to do. On a dirt track. But now on an asphalt track, other than blowing the track off, making sure there's not oil on it or what have you, it's kind of a clean green racetrack. You get out this session of cars, and then maybe the street stocks go out first, then the thunder stocks go out, then the mini stocks go out, and then you turn right around and do it again,
Right.
So doesn't affect anything a lot, but the only thing it does is it successfully, a lot of times, puts more rubber on the racetrack, which is what you want come around in your A feature time.
Absolutely, and I've not had a whole lot of experience around asphalt tracks. I've been to one race at KMS, and I drove up to Salem to do some interviews at Salem, and that's when I learned that the time constraints are much more rigid, and I didn't actually get to do any interviews. So,
Right.
But I have stepped on the infield at Salem, so I have that, to put in my belt. I can say that.
You ought to watch a race from there.
I hear it's a good time.
It is a good time.
I talked to Heath Helton that day, and he was talking about the speeds that they go into 3 and 4, and it sounds pretty terrifying, to see them go that quickly.
Well, it is, man. And when you can see them actually on the high banks up there, the treacherous high banks a lot of times, and, things happen at Salem really, really fast.
Right.
And because of the speeds. And the Salem Speedway is unique in itself. You can liken it a little bit to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Had big, fast half-mile, high banked, lot of banking. And one thing you should do, and I challenge anyone to do this, and it's something that I've done myself. Our first time there, we were in the infield,
right.
and we were helping people that were racing. Didn't have a good day that day, but William, Thomas, and myself, we ended up walking up to the top of the banking in turn 2 and sitting on the wall. And I'm telling you, man, if you didn't think there was a lot of banking from the way you look at it from the grandstands, man, you ought to be, I'm telling you, you ought to be on the track. I even had pulled the car up there that day for Keith Martin. Smoke, as we call him sometimes, but Keith Martin was up there racing, and again didn't have a great day, but was pulling the truck and trailer, and we got to. You have to bring it in after the races, and you have to make a complete lap around, and then pull onto pit road from turn 4 because you
right.
come in on turn 4 and you'll never make the turn with a trailer. I digress. We were able to make our lap around the track, and I told William, I said, hey, let's pull this thing up on the banking. And so we did, truck and trailer. We weren't going fast or anything. Nobody was. We were following other people. But we got it up on the banking, and I'm going to tell you right now, the trailer started to slide down the banking.
Oh, no. I'm standing there in the infield and looking at how high, those banks are, the edge of the track up there. It is pretty high, and I can absolutely see that. So, and that was another thing that was new to me. In my experience doing interviews in the pits and everything, I expect to be in the pits. I didn't expect to be, on the infield.
You in the pit road is way different there.
It was, and that was something that I would like to go back and try to do the whole deal again, and maybe grab some interviews from there again, because I think it's a cool thing, and it's a amazingly historic track. I just know better now how to plan that trip.
Absolutely. And, there is a lull, and you did end up there quite early that morning, and which, their date starts early up there, and you got to remember they're an hour ahead of us. But one thing is up there, it is unique. You don't have a pit area,
right,
like a set of pits. You have pit road there, and your car, you set up a pit stall, and it goes from right at turn 4 all the way to the back straightaway, right about halfway down the back straightaway, and that's where the end of the pit stop over there. Mm-hmm. And it goes all around turn 1 and 2, and it's a very, very tight pit road if you've never walked it, and it's kind of treacherous a little bit, and people have to really watch out in the course of a race when cars are coming down pit road to make those green flag stops, because there is a pit road. You got to be careful. You can't speed on pit road and things like that. Not that they have a mile per hour gauge or anything, and speedometer, but you've got to be very, very careful. I mean, things have happened. A lot of crashes happen. A lot of people hit tires. A lot of people have been hit in the pits. And so again, it's a place. It's unlike any other.
Sure.
It's a really, really cool racetrack, and old asphalt up there, and people love it. And with the history that track has up there, not that we're really smooching on them, but we are, because it's a cool place. Mm-hmm. And Tony Stewart's been up there. Jeff Gordon's been up there. Tons and tons of drivers that had huge careers on the asphalt, even in NASCAR, have raced there. And even our most current NASCAR Monster Energy Cup winner, Chase Elliott, watched him race there in an ARCA car. And did very well, and got to meet Awesome Bill that day. And I know Blake's not here to share in the enjoyment of meeting Bill Elliott, but he did the same. He was actually there that day, and I watched him talk to him. So it's a pretty cool deal. But again, Salem Speedway, pretty cool place. We don't want to take away from our guest, though, Blake Hillard, because we want him to get on and be able to share the stories that you all want to hear, and that's the point. We're doing it for you. And don't ever think that we're not, because we are. Had a little time off. Been hit and miss, and we got to record Donnie Fair's episode. So our second episode back from a little bit of a hiatus. But I'll tell you guys, we're not slowing down. We're really not. Some things happened schedule wise, and we had to take a week or so off there, and or a couple weeks off from the podcast, and we apologize for that. But there's a reason why, and it's because we're working on something so big. And
well,
again,
not just something, some things.
Things, yes, very, very big. And November the 3rd, it'll all become clear to you. So
it's right around the corner.
Yeah, that's right. We got about three and a half weeks to go on that. So if you guys, we're feeling the crunch on it, because we want to make this a big deal. It's going to be an announcement. So make sure you're November the 3rd. You're down at the Kentucky Motorsports Hall of Fame Speedseum, downtown Owensboro Museum of Science and History. It's going to be a big deal. So,
well, and we've also, we've been working with Blake Smith with Bluegrass Motorsports Media.
Bluegrass.
He, and I'm going to go ahead and make this announcement for him since he's not here. Coming soon to an internet radio station near you will be Hot Laps with Blake Smith.
Hot Laps with Blake Smith and
Blake.
Brakes. Pump the brakes.
No brakes. No brakes on the Hot Laps.
Curtis Blow.
No, you have
These are the brakes.
You have to win the Hot Laps.
I'll tell you what, if you win Hot Laps, you might get a black eye.
You might.
You never know.
But anyway, Hot Laps with Blake Smith, new internet radio show that he is going to be the host of. We are going to be doing big things with it.
Yep.
His first official show. We may have a couple practice sessions before the official show.
Yeah, we probably ought to do that.
But his official first show is going to be at the Hall of Fame.
Right. Covering that event specifically.
He's going to sit down and talk to the inductees before they are inducted. So it's going to be a cool deal.
Yeah, it will be. And so, again, guys, the beautiful thing about it, and like I said, we're not talking for Blake, because this will be his show. This is his. It's just going to be on the Bluegrass Motorsports Media Network.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be awesome. And the Ben Fender podcast is a part of that as well. We are our own show, just like Blake will have his own show, so don't get it twisted. Expect to see us on that show, and expect to see him on our show, because that's what we do.
And with the Bluegrass BMMN, Bluegrass Motorsports Network, media network, whatever. Anyway, but
we can't keep it straight.
There's a potential for a companion show to the Ben Fender podcast over there, a live show. So we've got some exploration to do,
right?
And see where we stand with all that stuff. So
we're still hosted on Podbean, and that's kind of our stable.
It always will be until we run out of money.
Right. Well, we're not going to run out of money. We still got jobs.
Yep.
So, guys, it's not that much. But if you would like to help us out with that, you can more than welcome to be a sponsor on the Ben Fender podcast. And also, we're currently looking for sponsors for Hot Laps with Blake Smith. It can be event specific, or it can be all year. So, wherever you guys are comfortable fit in, we'd like to have you.
If you would like to join the exclusive ranks of Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated, High Octane Wraps and Apparel, and Willie's Carbon Dyno Shop, you absolutely can do that. There's plenty of room for you to join that crew and help us make a bigger and better show for you guys.
And we definitely we kind of do that on a monthly basis, because we try to put out 4 shows a month best we can, and we haven't. It's kind of sad. We broke a record. And we missed a couple of shows, and but we've been doing it for nonstop. Right since about March, March or April.
March 23rd, I think.
Right. So here we are. October, and a lot of stuff going on. And the racing season is winding down. Only a few more weekends to go, and it's we're not going to stop. Just that doesn't make any difference with us.
Correct.
When the weather turns cold and the tracks turn cold, you can still find some hot action right here, because we're going to keep talking to those guys in the off season. A lot of guys, it's going to get a little bit better. Just for the simple fact, scheduling wise, not the shows, because the shows are awesome, I think, but scheduling wise, it's going to be a little easier to deal with that, because maybe not right around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, but people have got a little bit more free time because they're not working on their race cars, trying to get ready to go for the weekend. So again, it's going to be a good deal. Now, one thing we want to mention real quick, and we've talked a lot about the Halloween 200 at Salem coming up on October 21st, but prior to that, there is something going on, Bowling Green, Kentucky, October 12th and 13th. the Vet City Motorcycle Music Fest, and our buddy Jimmy Rhodes is a big part of putting that on down there. It's going to be a full weekend of show cars, motorcycles, all kinds of events, and music galore. Huge lineup on
Both
the 12th.
days.
Huge lineup on the 13th.
Both days.
Pick your day, go. We hope you go all weekend and support that down there. Tons and tons and tons of good food. We just keep hearing about everything keeps getting bigger by the day down there. It's going to be located right at the National Corvette Museum right there in Bowling Green, Kentucky, right in our backyard. You don't have an excuse not to get down there. 70 miles, man. It's not that big a deal. You drive to Nashville to see a concert, you can drive to Bowling Green to see a concert. Gretchen Wilson headlining on the night 1. Brett Michaels headlining on night 2. Again, lots of stuff to do down there. They've got burnout contests, show bikes, show and shine for the cars as well, cruise in. Heck, I don't know what all they're going to do.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
But if that's not your cup of tea and you do need to get some circle track action in your life, don't forget about the closing dates for the AMS American Modified Series happening this weekend as well.
Right.
Down in Morgantown.
Cedar Ridge Speedway.
Big 2-day show for that. Get down and see some of the best modified drivers in the country come fight it out for those top 10 positions, because I believe this is the last points race for the AMS series as well.
And you got to show up and be eligible for those points. So, guys, we're working really hard. A buddy of ours, Gabriel Kirtley, lets us come down here and do shows here at Fairview Management. I know he definitely is going, and trying to hold his position in the AMS American Modified Series points battle.
I looked at the top 10, and I believe that all of the top 10 have been on our show.
Really?
I maybe have missed one, but when I traveled up through Illinois, I believe I got all the top 10.
Oh, so Ben Fenders and Quick 6.
Well, the same show.
Right.
We're sister shows, brother shows, whatever.
That's both our shows. We don't
Yeah.
care. We call them that like it is. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man, to have all those all those folks being on the show, and it's well represented. So American Modified Series, never a stranger to good competition. It's going to be a big packed show down there. It's going to be full racing, I think, both days. Or are they running features only for the normal classes?
I think normal classes may get features only.
Right. But either way, they're going to add some laps probably and some money, and it's going to be a big deal. So get down there to Cedar Ridge Speedway this weekend, October 12th and 13th. It's going to be a big show down there as well. So, like I said, you got a full weekend of stuff to do. And I think Western Kentucky Speedway running this weekend too.
I think they are.
Yeah, down there in Nebo, Kentucky. So wherever you want to spend your racing dollar, we hope you do that. I think Kentucky Motor Speedway is off this weekend. I know Windy Hall Speedway is off this weekend. They've got their last show of the season coming up October 28th with the Enduro out
Correct.
there, the Enduro Day, and features only for all the normal classes, plus the bone stock Enduro. Don't do nothing to it. Get it out there. Put a little rollover bar in it, put you a door plate on it, keep everything else in the car, and go out there and have some fun. So
That's
it's going to be a big deal out there as well. So. Without any further ado, we've got to pay the bills, so let's get into our sponsors here. Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts, and Carts, which I'm sure we're going to hear about a lot of them. John Hayden and the boys down there.
I bet you.
Fairview IT Management, thanks to Gabriel Kirtley and the gang down here for letting us come down here. Martin's Towing and Recovery, Jeff Martin, Tree Monkey himself. See him for all your towing needs 24 hours a day. Chad's Barbershop, don't want to screw that up. Chad's Barbershop, Whitesville, Kentucky, always keeping the dew on the top of the pork chop's head. Clean, crisp, and photogenic ready. Even though if we're not getting victory lane photos.
That's true.
But at least it's ready.
Yep.
Anytime. So go see Chad Thompson, Master Barber up there in Whitesville, Kentucky, right there on Highway 764. Glenstone Construction, my father-in-law. Nepotism, be damned. That's my father-in-law, and he helps us out a whole lot. So don't ever think that he doesn't. Slingshot Media Group, Kevin Russell and the gang, hey, get by there. If you need your business advertised in multiple locations and multiple screens across the city of Owensboro and also different places, go see Kevin Russell at Slingshot Media. And if you need that ad designed, you can contact Red Star Graphics. That's Mr. Wes, the Mini Cup himself. He can do your graphic design work. It's no problem.
It's true.
No muss, no fuss. Just let him know what you want up front. It helps out.
Maybe a little fuss if they don't let me know what they need.
Yeah, you got to let him know what you need. And be transparent, be open, man. He's designed a lot of things, and a lot of people are happy. So it's cool
Absolutely.
stuff. Now, a specific podcast sponsorships.
Well, we talked about them a minute ago.
Right. Well, we're going to say it again.
Okay.
Home Realty, Lori Kimball with Home Realty. Go see her for if you're trying to buy a home. Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop and High Octane Racewear Graphics and Apparel. You can get your racing shirts right there. You can get your wraps for your race car, your semi, your dune buggy. Heck, they'll wrap a table if you want to. Cornhole boards, they do it all. So go down there and see them. You can find us online, ConwayRacingTeam.com. Also, the BenFenderPodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team, the Ben Fender Podcast, and also Bluegrass Motorsports Media. If you want to find us on Twitter, we're at Conway Race Team, Instagram, Conway Racing. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, Overcast, right?
Yep.
Radio Public.
Yep.
And where else? Anything?
iHeartRadio.
Yeah. iHeartRadio. Yes. Yeah, we are on iHeartRadio. So huge place there to find the podcast and radio stations. I mean, iHeartRadio has music festivals.
Yep.
So they're not small. So you can find us anywhere podcasts are consumed.
Yep.
Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and throw it in the first commercial break. We'll come back on the other side. Blake Hillard.
Are you looking for a hometown barbershop specializing in the best haircuts in Western Kentucky? Master Barber Chad Thompson has everything you need to keep you looking sharp for not only your special occasions, but for every day as well. Offering a line of haircut products to take care of your hair between cuts. Walk-ins are welcome, and you're always going to find friends and neighbors at Chad's. You can find Chad at 10655 Highway 764 in Whitesville, Kentucky, or you can give him a call at 270-903-8183.
And we're back from the break, sitting here at Fairview IT Management, back home again this week, and sitting here with Blake Hillard, driver of the Tuxedo Black number 6 on the high banks here at Salem Speedway, and especially at Kentucky Motor Speedway from time to time. Blake, we appreciate you coming on the show, buddy, and we're glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. I've been listening and listening to John's, and everybody went back and listened to some more, and I'm glad to be here and talk about a little racing.
Hey, that's the perfect thing to talk about on this show, because if it was politics, we'd probably shut it down right now, because we'd probably all be in a Venice fight or something.
Well, I don't know. Depends on sometimes where we're at. I mean, racing's starting to be a little politics anymore, but it's normal.
Well, we'll definitely talk about some of that, and we'll talk about the haymaker here in a little bit. But, man, I want you to go back. I want you to take it back, all the way back to the beginning, man, when you first got introduced to racing, and how did it all begin for little Blake?
I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and we were, we were at home watching, my dad raced years ago,
right.
And when I was about 4 or 5, we were just watching TV, and a go-kart race was on, and Dad said, what do you think about doing that? And I said, that'd be great, and he turned around, and the next day he had a van he drove to work, just an Astro van, And the next day, both seats were out of it, and he had a go-kart in the back of the van. And that's where it just took off from there. And we started racing, and we won our first go-kart race we ever went to. It was in Ohio County, and at the little fairgrounds they had over there. And we won our first race, and then it progressed, and we ended up having Hooters sponsor us by 6. And then that's when we really got into it, was when I was turned 6.
I think that was for Dad. It may not have been for you so much. But
it was more about him than me.
Yeah,
I'm 6 years old. I didn't understand, but we were really excited about it. And they, we partnered with them, and we raced, and we started traveling more, and we were running really well. And by age, we won the Indoor Dirt Nationals in '99 in Memphis.
Wow.
And we decided to venture out, and never ran asphalt. I was always on dirt. And we changed over to the Mini Cup. And there, if anybody's seen them, there's like a NASCAR, quarter the size, little framed cars.
Baby Grand type
Yeah,
thing.
baby Grands, just not as much motor.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun of those. And then at age 14, we went from the little 13-horse Honda Mini Cup to the full-blown late model. And great.
About 10 more horsepower, so
it didn't feel much. I didn't even know how to drive straight shift that well. And I remember I was at Beach Bend on the drag strip trying to figure out how to drive straight shift before the race, and spun it out trying to, just in practice. It was all a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Switching from that kind of dirt and then going to a little itty-bitty Mini Cup. I knew how to drive the asphalt a little better, but I've never drove a full-size car. And I guess Dad's thinking was if you can drive a super late model, you can drive anything. So that's what we went with. And
you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's the way he took it. So I was happy, you know, I was fortunate and having that opportunity to do that. And I think that's kind of what makes us run better. And we ventured out after super late models. We got the Super Street because it's real popular. And we did the ARCA for about 4 years. And the experience of doing that was just unreal.
Right.
Everything you do in ARCA, it's just like Cup, you know. And for me, driving the car was great, you know, having the experience and racing against big names like that, like Chase Elliott and all them. But I was really happy to see, you know, John is excellent at what he does, and, you know, he's been there, he's done this, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of my guys never got the chance to do it, but they got to do it now. And so just seeing them get the chance to do full pit stops and see how it operates, and then we get to, you know, I'm driving the car, and it's just a great experience. I mean, busy, but very good. It was great.
I tell you. Well, before we get too far, I'd like to touch on each of those points real quick and, you know, take it back to those go-kart days. You know, go-kart racing, fairly popular around the United States, and we have a lot of huge races now. I don't know how much they had, you know, back then, but, you know, those $50,000 races and things like that that they've got, and it's a really big thing up and coming. Talk to Cole Falloway, talk to, you know, people like that, and hopefully get Charlie Mefford on here at some point. But how was it back then, man? What I mean, you've seen it these days, probably watched a few races, but talk to us about, you know, several years ago how it was.
Go-kart racing, whenever when we started, just like, you know, street stock and everything today, it advanced so quickly, so fast, you know, from what we did. You know, we could run the same set of tires in go-karts whenever I was little. You know, we'd run the same tire almost all year and swap in old tires, whatever.
Right.
And I ran a go-kart for a guy, and, I mean, we had to have, like, you had to have new tires all the time and the setups of them, and it just, the karts got really, really advanced. But they're affordable to run. I mean, that's why everybody likes go-kart racing, because it's affordable. But I mean, the cost of to run a go-kart now is above and beyond from whenever I ran. I know they you know, we ran, you know, they have the clone motors now, which is nice, and it's more affordable for that. But I mean, just the expense alone has
went up.
It's went up. But I did notice that when we ran, there was a lot of go-karts, and then I think there was a time frame where the go-karts were kind of down, not very much. But then now all of a sudden now it's like it's coming back. Like there's more people jumping into go-karts, more people wanting to run go-karts, more kids, and that's great. Like that's where it starts. You know, not everybody. You know, you can't get a 5-year-old in a street car. But the go-karts is an excellent place for them to actually start, and that's where we started. That's where Brett started. That's where, you know, all of us started. Matt Kirby, we ran with him. He runs street stock at Whitesville.
Right.
And you know, we all started together, and we've all progressed through the same steps. So, go-kart race for me back then was a lot of fun. It was not as expensive.
Yeah.
But that's the bread and butter. That's where it all comes from.
Well, you know, you're right, and a lot of times that we see that, you know, that money will start creeping in, and different things will start creeping in, and the cost does go up, you know, fairly quickly, and it can go up overnight. It's just crazy how it happens in racing. But you went up there to the Ohio County Park, I guess, the you know, the decent track. It's still there. They don't race there anymore, sadly, but you know, talk about that night and what you can remember of it. That first win, first time in the go-kart, and get that first win the first night out.
The first night, you know, my mom and dad have really, you know, my mom's a nervous wreck when we go racing. She don't go a whole lot because of her nerves, but I appreciate, you know, I appreciate the fact of that dad did everything he did for me at that age, and mom being there, letting us go run go-karts, and the first night I think he was more nervous than I was, of course.
Right.
You know, I'm 4 years old, don't really know a threat, you know. I don't think about getting hurt. I'm just wanting to go out there and race a kart. And just that first night, I remember it was for some reason it was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't ever forget your first one. And I mean, I was 4 years old, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was a great feeling. I mean, just to go out there and actually accomplish that and win it and have, you know, have fun and meet a lot of new people doing it. And I mean, for Dad, it was the top.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, okay, this is great. Like, and then that's when we really progressed into it. At that age, you don't know if you're going to keep with it. I see a lot of kids want to get into it, and then they kind of, this ain't what I want to do, and that's fine. But when you win your first one, it's like, okay, I want to do this.
Of course.
And then it kept going, and when you lose your first one, that's really heartbreaking to take. But you can't win them all. We don't. I mean, you go to win, but you go to compete. And to me, you go to compete, which is more than anything.
Right.
And that first one, just to win it, that's all I had in my mind. You got to go. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. When you lose, it was a downer. But But that was an awesome experience. I mean, the kart was an old kart. It didn't, I wasn't the size I am now. I was a lot smaller then, but everything was old. My papa built my engine. It was a Briggs & Stratton tiller motor. He built it in his garage. I practiced in his backyard with it. Stuck it in the hay bales a couple times, That's where it
you got to learn your limits.
Yeah, that was it. Just right there, learning that in that yard that day, and taking that little motor. My papa, he passed away, and just the knowledge he had of just motors was really what it was great. We ended up changing later on to Paul Ear racing engines, and Paul was great to me, and just meeting all the people. When Brett started running, he was a big competition, just like he is today.
Oh yeah.
So. Just the competition level of my age group, everybody that runs really good today in dirt or in asphalt, a lot of them were that age group with go-karts. So the competition level has always been there.
Well, it's pretty cool how you talk about, being able to get a decently sized sponsor, with Hooters and coming on and being able to use that as a platform for you guys to get out and travel a little bit, not necessarily have to just run locally. And it's great to run, home tracks. But being able to get out and going down to, you talked about Memphis, the Indoor Kart Championships. Tell us a little bit about that. How that event come about? Do you just like, hey, let's go try our luck, or?
It was they did it every year on Thanksgiving, and we would all eat Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody's in Nashville, and it was everybody was in Memphis. Everybody went. I don't know. I don't really know how the event started. I was too little. Dad called me, and Dad would come by, pick me up from school or whatever. We'd go home, and he'd say, "Hey, we're gonna go run Memphis." And the year we went, I think it was like, we went every year. 98, 99, 2000, and in '99 there was, I think it was like 100. I ran Purple Restrictor, and I think it was like 130 kids, in my class, and it was, every class was stacked like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the payout is. Of course, I think it was like $500 to win, and that was a big. In '99, that was a big go-kart event. And I think I qualified 5th that day, and you had Sammy Swindell, his son was in it, and a guy built motors down in Alabama for go-karts at the time. I think it was Jones Motors. His boy was in it, and they were really competitive. And I was a little heavier than when I started, so for Purple Restrictor, I was a little bit over for the max weight. So we just had to use precision, and momentum was a big thing.
Right.
And I won't never forget taking the lead in that race. I was running 3rd. Sammy was leading it. Jones was 2nd. I was 3rd. And I saw the timing prevailed where 2nd place bumped the leader to send him up the way. I was like, this is opportunity.
It's my time. So
I hit 2nd, and they both went up the track. And I remember coming off turn 2 in the dome up there. It just hit me, triggered. I was like, I'm leading this race. I never thought. I never thought in a million years I'd get to that point. And we ended up leading every lap from there, and we won it. We took, of course, we took the motor home in a box. It's for that kind of event. They tore the motors down. But
oh yeah.
Man, I got that trophy today, and that's one of my top trophies I got, just from the experience of being down there. You saw a lot of great people, saw a lot of great things. You learned a lot down there. That's what I like about go-kart racing. It's not just seasonal.
Right.
There's a lot of indoor tracks you can go to. Greenville Indoors was absolutely great at that age. We'd all run it. They had 4 sessions you could run. We'd run all 4 sessions. I'd run blue, purple, blue restrictor, gold, and then I'd run 300-pound no restrictor. I'd race 4 times in the whole day in 4 different sessions, and going to Memphis and the coin, and I mean every place. I mean, go-karts is great. You can race it. 12 months a year you can go go-kart racing.
Right.
For what we do now, street stock. It's unless you want to go down to Florida.
Yeah.
It's it's seasonal. So yeah, I won't ever forget that. Memphis was an awesome experience. We went. Hudson went with us. He had a good run as well. Josh Evans was another one that went with us. Steve Hinton and Chris Murphy. All of us, we just had our own box. We put our trailers together and we all ran together. And I won't ever forget that.
Right. Well, that that's interesting how it was. And then 500 to win. We think about we might be running for 500 to win on the stock car track at some nights, but have that and now see what it's progressed to. Just exponentially. $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 races.
Right, $50,000, like the $50,000 go-kart race. I was like, man, I wish they were doing that kind of stuff when we were little.
Maybe I could have got that.
Yeah, I never thought that was I never thought that would even be a thing for go-kart racing.
Right.
That pays more than what any street stock race we got,
or
that pays more than an ARCA race.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how much money you can win on that one go-kart. But it draws the event. It's a lot of carts. I watched it live and. I checked it out online. That is an absolutely. I didn't know very many people in the race, or I knew a few of them. But when I watched the 50,000 win go-kart race, I was like, man, this is intense.
Yeah.
The intense was all there, and it drew you in just from how what's on the line here. I was like, man, that's just insane. But it's great. That's great they can do that, and it's great that they are able to put that out there for these guys to run. And I was like, this is awesome.
Well, that is pretty cool, and like I said, I think they deserve it. I think they work harder, just as hard as anybody in the stock car world or drag racing or something like that. And you're right. You can have money in these carts, these chassis that get built, and then the axles and the motors and the sprockets and all that. There's a lot to it.
Right. I see John with Alex Hayden, his son, and I went and watched Alex run in Greenville Outdoors, and it's like. John, he's a worker anyway.
Oh yeah.
And especially when it comes to race cars, go-karts, it don't matter. If it comes to foot racing, he's a racing guy. That's what he's about. And I've seen some of the work he's done and how much time he's put into Alex's go-karts and their own stuff and their own go-karts and not even just his stuff and other stuff and other people's go-karts and helping them out and get started. I was like, it takes just as much now to run a go-kart just as much as it does anything.
Right.
As much time and effort and dedication that it takes to run a street car at Whitesville, a lot of these guys have to put the same amount of time, effort, and dedication to run a go-kart race.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much it's changed. Years ago you couldn't, you can just leave it out there, go out there and set it up a little bit and go racing and be competitive. But everybody you see that's competitive today in go-karts, they take a lot of time with it, and that's what it's come to, and that's great. They kept it. The go-karts is very family oriented. Every time you go to the track, you see a lot of family, cousins, family members, moms and dads, and kids playing in the dirt with the little matchbox. That's what it's about. That's what I remember about go-kart racing. That was the great part about it, is the family oriented. It's progressed in timing in it, where it takes a lot of time to do it. But as long as everybody in your family is. It's like a family deal, and it's fun. It's so fun. I remember watching my dad try to run a go-kart, and he's pretty dangerous in anything he drives. I love him to death, but he can scare me. I think I'm more scared than probably he is watching me whenever he drives, especially when he raced Bristol this year in the 4-cylinder. Had me a nervous wreck, or last year, but
that car didn't fare too awful well.
No, it had speed, but it took about 4 laps for it to get there.
Yeah.
And he had a blast, though. Just to see him do that in his experience, that's one thing he always wanted to do. He always told me when I was little, I've always wanted to run late models, before I was born. But he said, I have one, but I don't even drive it. I tell him all the time when we had late models, I was like, well, you can go get in it and we'll see what you got. But he's a big racing guy. And just watching my dad, he run a couple go-karts. Best story, though, was I was 4, 5, 6 years old. He wanted to show me how to run a go-kart, and he put Stephanie Kirby's jacket on to go out on the track to show me how to run a go-kart, and the jacket got caught in the axle and pulled his arms back, couldn't get to the wheel. And it was a funny situation.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
As long as nobody got hurt.
You know,
yeah, it was
my
hilarious.
dad, he had some pretty good things happen like that. It's just funny to watch him do things like that. He thought he had a good intention of showing me something. And that wasn't it.
He showed you
but,
something, all right.
Yeah, but just the experience alone of him getting me into go-karts and showing me and my mom, you know, taking care of everything before we go and make sure we were prepped and make sure we had everything we needed. And I mean, it was a great experience.
Yeah. So you move out of the go-karts,
Right.
and you touched on, you know, kind of what you'd like in these days, so the baby grand stuff. Talk about the transition there.
It was rough. I mean, you know, all I've ever been on was dirt. You know, we run dirt tracks everywhere we go in go-karts. I mean, they had asphalt, but we didn't want to. There wasn't very many,
Yeah.
so we stayed with the dirt. But first time mini cup, went to never seen asphalt. Went to Sportsdrome and up by Jeffersonville,
Right.
north of Louisville. And Dad said my dad's big thing was just fill it out for the first couple laps, see what it feels like. You know, never done this.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Will Kimmel and Will and Frank Kimmel. That's what they ran was mini cups. And I think we got down the backstretch and they dropped the green and I passed 3 or 4 people in practice and I didn't make it out of turn 4. Done backed it in the fence. And right there was a big eye opener. Like, okay, this is different. And I mean, sometimes it's a hard way of learning, but it was a big learning curve right there.
Right.
We did really well in mini cups. We got better and better every year. We started running Beach Bend a lot.
All right.
And the worst thing about Beach Bend was it was on Friday night, and I wouldn't get out of school till late and football practice, and then we'd go to
Have
Beach
to hammer
Bend.
down to
We
Bowling
wouldn't,
Green, yeah.
we wouldn't even make qualifying some days, but we actually won a couple races down there, and man, it was great. I mean, to me, that was a good transition to go to asphalt. You know, a lot of people go to a cruiser, or you know, they'll go to
Thunderstock.
Thunderstock, 4-cylinder, something like that, and that's great. That's a great way of getting there. But the mini cup was great because these are actual racing cars.
Right.
So just to get the feel of the asphalt was to get the feel of how a car will react and stuff. It was closer to what I would feel going to a late model than I would driving anything else.
Right.
And especially, you know, going to bigger tracks and running like for us today, it's a short track. For mini cup, it was like Daytona.
Yeah, super speedway.
So, I mean, just going there and actually getting more speed into it was a great feel. And then we decided we didn't run it we ran from when I was, you know, maybe 5 years or so. But mini cups, like even today, that's probably the one class that is hurting the worst.
Yeah.
It's just because of it's an expense thing, but also it's they just don't run them enough anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, they have a little series and stuff, but it was really big when we did it. I mean, lots of people, but now today I don't see very many of them.
Well, I think periodically up at Sportsdrome, I think that's about the only place I hear, maybe up at Anderson or someplace like that, but you know, Sportsdrome is about the only place, and they only make a few appearances a year with the baby grands and coming in there. And you know, decently competitive race, but you know, again, you don't have a lot of them.
Yeah, the baby grands was a lot. It's more today better than the mini cup. The mini cup was, you know, the baby grands got more motor, and you see more. I see way more baby grands than I do mini cups today.
Yeah.
And I mean that's kind of sad because I mean I love the mini cup, the style of them, the way they look. I mean they look awesome, and the baby grands look great too, but. Just the mini cup was a good stepping stone to a baby grand, but now today nobody goes to mini cup. They're gonna run something like that. They go right to baby grands, and we you know at this time and age we probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But back then there were so many mini cups. Will Kimmel and Frank and we were running it. And there's a guy, his last name I don't remember his name, Cody Mahoney. He runs on dirt. He ran mini cups with us. We ran Mount Lawn against him. He was number 4 mini cup, just like he is today, number 4. I watch him on dirt. He's an excellent driver, and that's where we ran mini cups.
Wow.
And that's the great feeling of that's where I met Cody, and that's where I met all these guys that run good, and that's why we were so competitive in mini cups was because those were the people we run against. And now today it's really dwindled down, but like the Mini Cup was great for. They even come out with a dirt late model style Mini Cup. They tried to do it. Didn't. I don't know if it really took off, but like Cody Mahoney and Will and us, that's what we were competitive. We all raced hard, and the day if you put Cody came back and ran against us in asphalt, we went to dirt. We're gonna have a little bit of learning curve and everything to get to dirt, but it'd be the same way. We were all competitive. We were good friends with it.
Yeah.
And I won't ever forget that. A lot of people we met and a lot of people that we all ventured out after Mini Cups and did different things, but we all remember those days from when we ran together at Sportstrome or Anderson or Mount Lawn or anywhere else.
Well, I think that's important, to make those connections with people, and a lot of times we see that before we move on to some other stuff there. But a lot of times we see that everybody at one point, it's probably like, I don't know that guy. I ain't gonna talk to him.
Right.
Why don't you just say something? You just say hey, something like that. You never know what could develop. Friendships, and you never know what you might learn.
Right. It's we had a couple guys when we were in Mini Cups that the transition for me as a driver was big, but also the transition for what my dad and Brian Hickey and everybody that went with us to help, the transition for them was big. They've never really done anything like this. It's just been dirt. So once we transitioned to that, we had a lot of people help us along the way. I know a guy that helps Chuck Barnes today. His name's Leland.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lot of help. Him and his dad passed away, which was very sad, but his dad and Leland actually took a lot of time with us and showed us the right things to do. And when we started going to them and talking to them, and we really progressed to learn more about what to do with these cars. And just meeting the right people and talking to the right people and having the right people around you to get to that point was excellent. Especially for Dad. He's had things. He learned things on those cars that he won't forget, and I've learned things about the driving style of them that I won't forget.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people helped, and that's the great thing about Mini Cups when we ran it was everybody helped. We were all kids, so we all worked together to get better, and we did. We really, everybody that I ran Mini Cups with got a lot better by the time we were ready to move out of it.
Well, and that's, like I said, that's important to align yourself. There's always somebody going to be there that has done this. You might be the new guy on the block. Be like 3 or 4 new guys on the block. But if you can be the new guys on the block, you can start your own band.
Yeah.
But when you come into that, and again, you try to, if you just talk to some people, it's just don't be tight-lipped. Don't be sitting over there. Well, I don't know them. Don't come in my pit. Whatever. Be open to things, and that's how you're going to learn. Right.
Especially at that age. Today, when we run street stock, everything, it's
hush, man.
Yeah, we don't. A lot of people don't talk about what they do, and that's a competitive edge.
Oh yeah.
Like any sport you do, anything you do to, make your car better, make yourself better. That's how you stay ahead of the game. And you always got to change. You always got to adapt and change to different. In street stock like today, we have a really good car, a really good team, a really good set, and whenever we go racing, we try to perform everywhere we go. But like at Salem, if we're the top car there, somebody's always trying something to get there.
Oh yeah.
And so you always got to keep trying to stay ahead of the game. And sooner or later, the tides will turn.
Oh yeah.
But you just always got to keep working at it to get to that point.
Absolutely.
It took us years to get there, and everything we've done, and it takes time. But once you're there, you got to try to hold it.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Blake. Let us go ahead and take our first commercial break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll want to talk progressing through your career there from getting out of the Mini Cups to getting in those late models. So we'll be right back here in just a second.
Fairview IT Management is your one-stop shop for your home computing needs. But did you know they are also one of Owensboro's leading business automation services, offering network automation, system administration, and remote managed support? Fairview IT Management can become your help desk to help you reduce staffing costs and keep your bottom line low. Give Gabriel Kirtley a call at 270-228-4339 for all your business technology needs.
And we're back from the break, still sitting here with Blake Hillard, Fairview IT Management here, and kind of a homecoming from last time we were at Skills VR Arcade. But, Blake, we were talking before the break about those Mini Cup cars and how much fun that was and how much you learned, especially just getting on the asphalt for the first time. But talk to us about. So you ran that for what, 5 years? You said 4 or 5 years.
About 5 years.
So now, Dad has a new plan, right?
Right. His plan was to buy a street car, and we bought a late model. I don't know how that plan changed so quick, but it did.
There's a price tag.
Yeah. He said, I was in middle school, and I come home, and it was like, what's this? He goes, oh, it's a late model. I was like, oh, I thought we were buying a street car, and that didn't happen. We went to the late model. So
where's the bumpers on it, Dad?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on here. I didn't know enough about the car to jump into it, but it was great. I mean, that was a big learning experience. I mean, huge for me on asphalt. And the late models, we had a lot of success with it, especially at Salem. Talking, trying to figure out the right things for me and the car and what Dad wanted to do. And once we kept working at it, by the end of us running late models, super late models, we were really competitive. But then again, like the Mini Cup, that's when everything started dwindling down. Everything started going to more traveling. Everything started going to more expense. Everything got out of hand. Nashville is a big place to run now, but they're not even super late models. They're pro late models. They're crate motors. So the super late model, only place that I ever see really run them, it's a big series. It's the CRA big, series. That's where they normally go to. So.
I don't know what happened. Siri was like, she don't get it. She doesn't understand the difference between a super late model and a pro late model.
It's different. I mean, I like the pro late models. We run pro late model now. We got one this year, and they're a lot different. I mean, than a super. Like, I can compare a super late model more to a street stock than I can a pro late model.
Right.
Just for the fact of that, a pro late model, it's a lot. A lot of car. It's light car. A lot of tire, less motor.
Right.
So you really have to drive those cars hard. You really drive them off in the corners. You really have to pick up the throttle. It's a momentum-based game.
Yeah.
Super late model wasn't that much. So, but yeah, I like the super late models. The power, I mean, it was amazing. I've had some awesome races in super late models. Had some great finishes. Had some, I mean, it's just the money moved on, and super late models were dwindling down. Only way you're going to compete is you have people like Stephen Wallace, and they travel.
Yeah.
It's a lot of traveling. We all work. We don't have that time to travel, so we kind of got out of it and went to the street stocks and got the pro. But I love the super late models. I wish I could redo it. I mean, if there's anything I could redo right now today, that's what it would be. Would be super late models. Just the competition level was excellent too. I mean, especially at Salem, they used to run super late models once a month, and they had a regular series for it. And that's where you meet people like Keith Gardner and Pete Maiden, and Brett was running it. We were running it, and I mean, Joe Williamson. The first time I ever led laps up at Salem in the late model was I started on the front row with Joe Williamson, and he's an absolute legend of late models, drag race. I mean, everything he's done, and just to associate and learn from these guys and compete with them was excellent. And then once the Salem stopped running them normally, everything just went downhill.
Well, now, was that when the super late models, that was your first trip to Salem? I mean, I'm sure you'd been there.
Yeah,
but hadn't got to race there.
Right. I mean, we went a couple times and watched and learned where they run at, because everywhere else you go, you run high on the straightaway, you run low on the corner. Salem, you run it like Darlington. So you run it by the wall through 3 and 4, kind of middle through 1 and 2. So we kind of went to learn, just kind of watch them. And first time out, I thought I was, I think I set a track record. I thought I was the fastest thing I've ever been on Salem, and I was about 2 seconds off. So, I mean, that was like an eye-opener, how more aggressive you have to be, especially with the late model. Salem's not a forgiving track.
No.
It's very
punishing.
It's very aggressive. It's wall to wall. So, I mean, that's probably the worst feeling I had whenever I thought I had done something and I really haven't done nothing yet. but I mean, that was a big door for opportunity to actually, okay, well, since I'm that slow and I thought I set a track record, then we need to figure out what I need to do to get there. And that first year we had a car that was a good car, but it was really tight. I mean, the chassis just wouldn't do what we wanted it to do. And I was so Dad, I was like, man, if I had something that was, finally he we found the right route, and we built a car that was absolutely, we try to never cut any corners on anything we do, but when we're just learning something, you think you have something, and you learn something different. And finally we got a car built, and he said, well, it's all on you now.
Right.
We got the tools, we got the, there's nothing cut on this car. And it showed the first race out. I mean, we went back up there, and the next year, different car, different chassis. It was a Port City chassis. Everything reacted. Everything was different. The car, I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday, going through turn 1 and 2, and the car drove differently. And we actually finished 5th. And we got in a little spin with Pete Maiden, and I mean, it was just a racing deal, nothing major. And after that, we're like, we got something. And then we progressed from there, and by the end of the year, we were leading races and competing, and absolutely, it was just absolutely different car. And it made the different car made a different driver. So, yeah, when we got out of the super late models, just for the pure fact of that they were dwindling down around here, it was heartbreaking, but.
Yeah, one guy can't keep it going,
right. I mean, it was like there's only right now there's only 2 late models I know of in town, which is Dakota Stroops, and we have one, and there might be another one but I know the only active ones I've seen a lot is R2, and but like we said, we got to the super streets, and man, that's where, like, right now that's the bread and butter. Like, that's where it's that for around here. We can go to Bristol, went to Rockingham. And from you make a triangle from Indianapolis to Louisville to Owensboro. Your top 5 there, every single event is from that triangle.
Right.
We've had guys from Canada. We've had guys from New York. We've had guys from Alabama. But your top 5 everywhere we've been, major event, is from that triangle. So the competition level, I would say, out of all the racing we've done, we have done, the competition level, besides ARCA. ARCA's very, very, very intense, but for normal local racing, there's nothing more competitive than that right now.
Right.
For asphalt.
And it does, and I agree with you there, because I guess it's not as, and you can spend a fortune on it. You definitely can.
Right.
But basically, mostly stock chassis.
Right.
Good. Production frame cars.
Right.
And you build up your suspension and your motor and things like that, but basically a stock car. I mean, that's what it is in essence. It's not tube chassis, it's not different things like that, but it's what you guys are doing on those production stock frames.
Right.
And I think that's where I think that's why it's so competitive. I mean, you've got Camaros, you've got your Monte Carlos, and then some guys are trying to run the big stuff like big Chevelles and big Monte Carlos and things like that. So it's a kind of a hodgepodge of everything,
right,
instead of being late model chassis where everybody's got pretty close to built chassis. You can get a production chassis.
Yeah. What like my dad, he would tell me, what a street car is. It's a race car.
Yeah.
What we would call an ARCA car, a late model, we call those race machines.
Yeah.
That's what they're built for. These
Right.
cars weren't built for that. These cars were built to go get the milk.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what these cars were made for. And so to us, these are race cars. These are cars that were not designed for this, that we made do this. And then you have your machines, which is what your late models would be.
Right.
They're made for that.
Yeah, they were created from just a pile of steel to what you're doing now
Exactly.
to race.
So I mean, when we got to the street stock stuff, I mean, I think running super late models helped, because the first time we went and run the street car at Salem, I was complaining that it was slow. I didn't have no speed. I couldn't turn. I was 3rd quickest in the first practice. And I told Dad, this thing is a slug. I can't get it to, I don't like it. And I was like, it just don't feel fast. He's like, I think you're like 3rd or 4th quickest. I'm like, really? So I mean, I hate it for people who run, some people who run street stock or something, that if they haven't got to experience anything else yet, driving other cars is what's really helped me develop more. Some people get to street stock and they do excellent. I know a lot of guys that run just street stock and they do absolutely great. And it's almost scary what they would do if they ever got the chance to venture out to run a late model, to run an ARCA car, or run something different, and then come back and run a street car. Because I've learned a lot from running those other cars to come back and run street stock,
Right.
or even running street stock to run the late model. I've learned so much from different types of cars on how they drive. It's changed how I drive, you know.
Right.
John Hayden is absolutely king of a car to me, and he was one of my favorites growing up. And he just having him coaching me and helping me develop just from the last 3 years, I can see a difference in how our cars has changed, the reaction of the cars, how I drive. Just having him in there, able to give me the right path to get there. That's been huge for us with these cars.
Right.
And just adventuring out and doing other things, having John there, having the right tools, and man, when you go up to Salem, there's no greater feeling when you see it coming out of the trailer. You're like, we're going to win this race.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling. Like used to, I'd go up there and say, we have a chance to win this race.
Yeah.
But now, when I go to Salem, or even Whitesville, anywhere now, we're going to win this race. And if we don't, it's that's part of the game. That's what we do this for. But there's a big difference to me between a chance to win and thinking, having in your mind that you're going to win.
Yeah.
And that's what John and driving other cars has gave me, was that feel of anywhere we go, we're going to win this race. And it's awesome. I mean, to be that competitive with everybody is the main thing. Like, it's the greatest feeling in the world for racing, and that's what we do it for, to compete.
Right.
So, I mean,
well, myself, just watching you and you talk about the last 3 years at least, just watching you, and I go to Salem, mostly for the Halloween 200. I don't get a chance to go up there on usually regular nights or anything, but, watching that, and, the Kimmels, big stronghold up there,
mm-hmm.
and Chuck Barnes Sr., and little Chucky's now, Chuck Barnes Jr., man, is tough too, but Chuck Barnes Sr. and that street stock division up there, Great American Stock, is it, man. Now, that guy was the top.
Right.
And to have people start to go up there and, man, start, especially Brett Hudson, and he did, a ton of winning up there and still runs competitive anytime he goes. But, you guys have been slowly and sometimes a little quicker, but, chopping that off, getting up there, getting closer. Oh, I'm running up front now. Man, we can run with these guys. And just to see you guys kind of now are transitioning to when you're one of the favorites when you unload. I mean, you guys are like, hey, there's the guys, man. They're here.
It took some time. I mean, like, we got to where we were, a 15th place car, and then slowly we got to the top 10 car, and then just in any, I think this is true for any, whether you do dirt, whether you do asphalt, no matter what kind of racing you do, how you drive a car and running 15th is different how you're going to drive the field in the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, me transitioning to learning how, whenever I'm racing and passing people in the back, people kind of give and take a little more, and, there's no need in tearing the car up. But when you're running, third, and it's, me and Brett, when we race each other, we're friends, we talk, we communicate, but when we're on the track, we compete really hard.
Serious,
And 2015, I think it was, in the 4th of July race, he won it, and I finished second. My dad told me, he said the coolest thing in the world was you could hear those two motors over the field. He was doing everything he could to stay ahead of me, and I was doing everything I could to hunt him down. So that right there, that's why the bond is there when we can race against each other, because we know how to push and shove each other, but we know how to also race each other,
right? And
not tear each other's stuff up. But how he's going to race me is different how he's going to race somebody else.
Yeah.
And learning how to race other people in the top 5, especially at Salem, it was a little challenging, but it was nothing you can't overcome.
Right.
But trying to transition to that, and once we got to where we knew how to make the right moves, really reading the other drivers, reading when you're out there on the track, which that's what they do too, and getting to that point to where like our car is just absolutely phenomenal, giving it to where we need. We got to set up for the long haul.
Yeah.
Like you said, you go to Halloween. That's most of the time when we go up there is for the big ones. And just setting the car up to make sure it's ready for not lap 5, but lap for 195.
Right.
So, the transitioning to get to where we got to the front, okay, now we got to adjust our game plan. I got to change as a driver because it's a different ball game up here. And like Heath Hilton this year, he's actually progressed so much at Salem. He's won a race up there, and he's learned so much about the cars. And I talk to Heath every now and then. I don't talk to him a whole lot, because I stay busy, he stays busy, and he runs a lot of the normal races. But that's what I feel like that's what he's been going through. He finally got to where he was running better. He got up front, and now he learned how to adjust and change to how to drive the car. And it's worked out great, and that's what you got to do up there. That track is so demanding on a driver and a crew chief. You got to have a good gel. You got to have a good communication there to get to that point. That's why Brett runs up front. That's why Chuck Barnes Jr. and Sr., they run really good up there. John gave me a better understanding of what the car can do and what the car can't do, and what it needs to do. So when John kind of worked with me a lot better on that and understanding more, and at Whitesville we got better. I was struggling one day, and I knew it was a driver thing, and I was trying to figure something out at Whitesville, and maybe it's not me explaining it right. John drove it one day for practice. That was a turning point for me.
Right.
Because he's going to be able to tell me something that I'm missing. Every driver's missing something.
Right.
And you're never, every driver can learn something somewhere. And who better to learn it from than John Hayden? So
Absolutely.
I say, hey, you get in it. Now, granted, he's a little taller than I am. He's, I'm a little wider than he is, but he got in there and he made some laps, and he talked to me how the car and how it reacted to him versus what I was saying. And once we started doing that, we did that the first time just to see how it went. Nobody's ever drove my car besides me.
Right.
I told Dad, and we talked about it. I think it'd be a good idea to just let him practice it. And that moment, everything changed. Everything was absolutely a different ball game.
Right.
So that really helped us out a lot.
Well, that's a guy right there that definitely knows about race cars and go-karts. He knows a lot about them, and he's got tons and tons of knowledge up there, from years and years of racing and things that he knows. And it's one guy that I would say, if I had an asphalt car full time, that I'd be like, look, I need to know what to do here. Tell me what to do, and we'll do it.
I like trying to push his I like trying to push his knowledge as hard as I can, especially up here at Salem right now. The car's so good and so great. It really. I think he likes a challenge, and I can just tell he's a competitor. I've competed against him. I think our first year running ARCA, when we bought an ARCA car and we decided we were going to do it, and he was my crew chief, we raced against each other literally 3 weeks prior to our first event together, first time, and we ended up wrecking each other at Whitesville in a late model on lap 1. We didn't even make it to the start-finish line. He can't. It's just a race. On the start of the race, I caught him and he spun the tires. I don't remember exactly how. He spun across the nose, sent him to the infield, and it was just funny. I watched John a lot growing up as a kid, and he was one of my, him and Frankie Bartlett and all these guys in street stock and late models when I was a little kid. They were my, they were the ones I wanted to see win.
Right.
And I don't remember John running the 55. That was a little bit before whenever I started really going out there a lot, but the 100 red late model was it.
Everybody knows that red 100.
You see that car, you know the history of it. And watching him run those cars, and the guy's got some knowledge. And just running each other, running against him as a competitor and learning how he drives, I think that how we both drive is different, but I could say today my driving style is more changed to kind of what he would do.
Right. And
he's very aggressive on the wheel. We have always said John Hayden can get 10 more horse out of it just by his foot. Just because we had that feel about him. He could take something that's not driving or not handling or not under horsepower, and he can make it work. So, just having him in the stable is amazing. that's what really progressed us. That's, you can see the time frame from when we were running, we were competitive at Salem to where we became a dominant car for a while, and actually have, a huge chance of winning these big races was about the time frame when John come in and started showing not just what the car needed, but as a driver what I could do to help myself.
Right.
And of course it was rough. It's hard to take it in sometimes, and
change is tough sometimes.
But it can be rough. But whenever I finally started realizing that this guy has gave me 100%. Every time he touches this car, he's giving it 100%. So me as a driver, I got to give it back.
Right.
And so stuff happens, stuff breaks, accidents occur. I'm as a driver, as a crew chief, things will happen.
Right.
But just being able to, for me to realize, hey, this guy's gives me 110% every time he's on this car. He's putting his knowledge to the test every time.
Right.
And I was like, well, as a driver, I got to do the same. And once we started getting on that scale of, I got to give you everything I got, you're giving me everything you got, that's what it takes to win a race.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you got to trust each other. That's the biggest thing. You got to trust that what he's doing to that car is absolutely what that car needs. And then he's got to trust you when you're out there racing and you're out there driving and you've got it in your hands. He's got to trust you to do your job, to make sure you hit your marks, and to drive that car accordingly and not abuse it. Not make sure you don't run into nobody else if you can keep from it. And, that's where one of the biggest things is, and I think we see it in NASCAR a lot. Guys, crew chief and driver combinations been together, 15 years. And I'm sure there gets stalemates and y'all want to slap each other's head off sometimes, and you're like, oh, man, I'm tired of you. But, again, it's a trust thing. And I think that's what you guys are seeing.
Well, I mean, if you don't get in a stalemate with them, you're not learning.
Yeah.
If you're just always, when we go run ARCA, you see these guys, when we ran ARCA a lot, I mean, it was these kids who, that has everything they need. They have a good setting, they have a good trailer, they have a good car, they have all the best equipment. They get out of the car and, they qualify like 18th or 19th and nothing's said. It's like, oh, well, it just, If I get out of the car at Salem and I don't pick up enough, John's gonna let me know about it, and that's good. That's what I have, somebody pushing me to know you can always be better. And a lot of those guys don't have that, especially when we run ARCA. It's a lot of money to run that. And I was like, it blew my mind. When we went up there to Salem, we qualified 6th. That was a good qualifying lap.
Yeah,
it could have been better because I wasn't number 1,
right.
But we were really pleased to know we were qualified 6th, and with Schrader and everybody there, we had a great run. And then I noticed in the field, there was the guys that just qualified and didn't have that push, that drive,
for them. They didn't,
And with John, he is, he is like an owner, and this, like our car, he is the owner. He acts like he's the owner. He's the crew chief. He's everything.
Right.
Our crew chief doesn't have to get mad, but he does, because he knows what the car can do, and he knows I can do better. And just having that push was great. That's what's kind of the aggressiveness that I've had now. Not aggressive as in tearing everybody up and tearing my cars up. I mean, it just being able to drive 200 laps and not lay down, be tired, whatever. He has that drive. He's always had it. John's had it, for years. So John being able to push me to be better about it, which pushes the car to be better. So it's kind of a pushing thing, push-pull. We push back and forth, and that's why the car at Salem we got is so great. I push it to the max, and he's made it to where it can be pushed there.
Right.
And granted, any time it could go away, but it took some time to develop that. But once we developed it, it's amazing. Right. It's hard to beat.
Well, I've took 2 things about what you said there, and I do want to talk about ARCA for just a minute, and then I want to run into something else. But talk about ARCA real quick and about how it was. How did you guys decide to do that, and just a national touring series like that? How did it come about, and how's it a whole lot different?
It was just something Dad wanted to do. He brought it up to me one day, and he felt like, we run really well in late models, and we were doing better in street stock, and he said, let's try ARCA. and they ran twice a year at Salem.
Right.
And we don't run we don't run a whole lot, and we just run for the big races. And I was like, well, that'd be a good idea. And he bought the car from Hudson. They had several of them, and being that Brett and them have knowledge about it, and John had his Daytona car, it only made sense. I'm not gonna have somebody who've never been in an ARCA race, crew chief a car whenever I'm trying to learn it, and they're going to be trying to learn it at the same time. It's going to be hard to compete.
Right.
But it makes sense. John Hayden's going to make the shots, and our first race was, it was a learning curve. It was just really feeling the car out, feeling how because they drive different. They feel like top heavy. They got a lot of power, but it's about like driving a street car. I mean, it's weird, but me and Will Kimmel talked about it. It's like driving a street car. But the second time in the car, we qualified sixth. The everything was there. We got in a wreck in the race, which was unfortunate, but it just came about just overnight. Just Dad wanted to do it, talked about it, found the car, got it, talked to John. John crew chiefed it, and he don't go to Salem with Patrick Shelter and you win a Salem race,
All right.
The guy knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So, and he did. I've never sat in the car, and we were fast from the get-go. But the series, like everything else we've talked about, is just, it dwindled down. It's hurting. And I felt like I liked ARCA. It was fun. The experience was there, but it's like they wanted to be more corporate. They wanted to have bigger teams, and it was really hard on small teams like us. Like, that's why there's not very many small teams left in it.
Yeah.
It really took a hurting whenever the tides turned, the money was less. Especially at Salem, Winchester, places like that. And but we got to run the LORP, Toledo, and it was great. Bola Mastis, he runs it a lot, and he does a really good job with it. And we got to run it with he runs a full series. We didn't run that many, but when Bo would run, we went with Toledo and watched him run, and just the competition level that I think we see Bo and all Bola Mastis, he knows about it, and the competition level in ARCA was so great. Everything was off of inches, and that's why that was another turning point for me as a driver. You got to it was rough for a while. You go to qualify and you see it was kind of a hard point for ARCA was we wrecked in qualifying or practice, we're done. Another guy wrecked, he goes to the trailer and he pulled out another car.
Yeah.
So it was a game changer for us as a team, but just see the competition level. That was probably the toughest competition level I've ever had.
Right.
And it makes you better in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Well, now the other thing I was talking about is just like you said, guys coming in there and $1 million haulers and having 2 or 3 cars up and stuff in the trailer and motors. And you guys, and you saw that, and you're a guy that notices things like that when these guys would get out after qualifying, and they're like, "Nah, all right, let's go back here and talk to somebody else."
Right. If you're not upset about it, then something's wrong there to me.
Yeah, maybe that's not where you need to be.
Sometimes I let it get at me too much. I let too much stuff eat at me sometimes, and you got to let stuff go. But if you go out there and you have a car that, these guys have cars that should compete to win this race.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you. It happens. People qualify good, and some people can really get after that one lap.
Yeah.
But qualifying isn't everything. John's hard to please on that. It's funny with John. He'll I'll qualify bad, and he'll say, we should have done better than that. Let me know about it. We'll talk about it. If I'll qualify good, he'll tell me that was just one lap. So I was like, what do you want from me?
Hey.
But and he's right. It's not all about the qualifying, but you can just tell that some drivers, and when I ran ARCA, it's like they don't have the drive to get there, and like you have the equipment to get there, and if it doesn't bother you, something's wrong. Like when I go to Whitesville and didn't qualify good, I'm upset about it.
Well, it sets the tone. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know that qualifying isn't everything. 1 lap, 2 laps, whatever it is, just depending on the series, but it does set the tone and be like, man. I felt good about the qualifying lap,
right.
And so now I got a little boost, now we can go roll into the race, and now we've got to put it all together for X amount of laps.
Right.
But let's don't rest on our laurels here. Let's move on. And I think that's what you're saying is that's where the difference comes in running street stock cars,
Right.
or Great American stock cars, versus the cars like that. I mean, a ton of money in the street stocks. Don't get me wrong, but there's your difference, and I think that's competitive drive. That's part of it.
Yeah, it's I think like what you settle for, when you settle, that's what you're going to get. If you if you kind of put in the work, you're going to kind of get the results you want. And we used to settle for, when we started running street stock, we finished in the top 5. We settled for that. I've gotten to where now if I finish second at Salem, I'm not happy. And that's and I'm happy. I'm happy that we run good and we compete. That's the main thing. But I always want, I feel like this car could have done better. And it's not always the car. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes some things just don't gel. But that's the main thing about it is you always want to. As a driver, you always want to better yourself.
Right.
And anybody that just settles for what they have is to me, that's not right. We won 4th of July this year. We won the Halloween in 15. We've won several races at Salem this year, but I'm not satisfied with that. I want to, because I know Chuck, Brett, they're right there. They're just
hungry,
as fast.
Yeah.
And you got to stay hungry for it. And that's kind of way I got to do. I got to. Even though we have a really good car up there and we run really well, I got to try to stay hungry for it. And especially a big thing with John learning that when we go to new tracks, you got to adapt quick. And that was a big problem for me was when I'd go to Winchester, if I go to Salem, or not Salem, but Winchester, LORP, or Toledo, or Shady Bow, I had a problem adapting to new tracks. Well, Brett adapts well. I could take Brett, or you could take Chuck, or you could take, and they adapt. They can figure it out quickly. So as a driver, that was a challenge I had for a long time was I had to learn to figure it out, adapt fast, and be able to relay the information I'm feeling to John to get the car so he can make the car. I mean, he can only do so much.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not giving him the right information, we're in trouble. So being able to adapt quicker, like we ran to Winchester and ARCA, we didn't do, we had fun with it. It was decent. We wrecked in practice, and it was a pretty hectic, pretty busy weekend. Mm-hmm. But since then, we went back up there. I haven't been back up there in over 8 years.
Yeah.
And we went up there last year in the street stock, qualified 3rd, was running well. Had some mechanical issues that happened on the car, which was nobody's fault.
Right, it just happens.
It happens. But being able to know that we went there, we adapted quickly, and we were fast. And that's what you got to do, especially when you travel and do it a little bit. You got to adapt. And I didn't have that at first. I would try to figure it out. Well, that's why when we go to run ARCA, you'd see the guys that got the track rented for a week.
Yeah.
Because that's helping their driver adapt. Well, sometimes you don't have that chance.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to adapt quickly.
You got to roll in on a Thursday or Friday and be like, well, we need to know what we're going to have to know before qualifying.
Right. And I mean that's why it's always good. Like when we have open practices, like at Salem or at Whitesville before that big race we had a couple weeks ago. We go in early. You have a chance to figure out what you need to do. But we've gotten a lot better at adapting. We've got a lot better at overcoming situations. This sport's very situational. 15, we won a Halloween race with half the car on it. The body tore off of it, and that was a situational deal. What made that win so special was the fact of that it wasn't given to us. We had to earn it.
Yeah.
Not just me as a driver, but them in the pits. They had to make sure they got everything off, make sure their tires were clear, make sure we didn't have a flat, make sure they gave me 110% in there to give me, hey, this is what you got. So
right.
For everybody in the pit that day, everybody that was there with us to help us, everybody in the stands that was supporting us. I mean that was a very special win for me because that was my first Halloween 200 win. It was my first street stock win ever at Salem, and it was proven that it had to be earned. It wasn't gave. For the state of what the car was in, normally even as a driver, you'd have ruled yourself out. You're just trying to stay in the hunt if something happens or finish well. But it was awesome. Take that car and do what we did with it. And I was like, this is very special. For even my dad, that was the best thing. For Dad, how special it was for him, all the time and John had in the car and effort and Dad being there. And this is a race that Dad really wanted.
Yeah.
Before we ever stopped, this is one he wanted. And the state of what the car was in and how we got it just made it even sweeter.
Right.
So, but yeah, 4th of July race this year was great for us. We had a great run there. Really patient, really hot. So, just being patient and waiting for the right time. That's what it's turned into, is a patience thing. Some people have it, some people don't. But that's one thing especially for the Salem Halloween 200 fire, even Whitesville 200 lap. Any 200 lap race you run in a street car, it's got to be about patience. And even that sometimes it's hard to do that. You're a driver. You want to get out there and go. You've been there, and you just got to pull back.
Yeah, you want to really just rip it from the start.
Right.
And you just can't. Sometimes I can't do that. And you could probably talk to that and how much different it is running and nothing taken away from the normal 50-lap races up there at all. But if you run those 50-lappers and you get really good at it, but then you're like, well, now I've got to do X amount more. I got to do 200 now. Yeah, I can make my car last, but boy, it's running on fumes at 50 laps. What am I going to do at 200? Well, then you've got to figure that out. But then I guess the transition sometimes could be counterproductive. You run a lot of 200 milers or 200 lappers, and say you go up there one night, you say, man, let's go Salem tonight, and we're going to go run 50 laps. I'd imagine it's going to be a little bit different.
It is. It's a lot different. You got to pull back. For what you all pull back on the reins to not, to be patient and take your time with. In a 50 lapper, you really got to go.
Yep.
So, it's a difference. It's a different race, but that's what it's come to. It's just it's a big mind game. You just got to play it, and we've gotten a lot better at it and being patient.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to go rolling into another commercial break, and we'll be back on the other side, and we're going to get into a little social media stuff when we come back.
All right.
Whether you're buying or selling a home, you want to ensure your needs are met. Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated is the realtor for you. In today's fast-paced society, it's important to have someone on your side that will give you the care and treatment you deserve. Lori wants to build a relationship with you, and it's her full-service commitment focusing on your family's wants and needs that sets her head and shoulders above the rest. You can contact Lori today at 270-315-1468. That's 270-315-1468. Or you can find her on the web at www.lorikimball.com. Call her today to unlock doors for your tomorrow by building a relationship with a realtor who's here for you.
All right, back from the break, still sitting here with Blake. I don't know why we'd be sitting here with anybody else just other than ourselves, but man, we're having some great fun here and telling a lot of stories about your career. Touch back on just a second of those some of those drivers you named earlier. We were talking about Frankie Bartlett and John Hayden. Tell us why those guys were just, as a young man, watching those guys at Whitesville and things like that. Why were they the cream of the crop for you?
Well, they, everybody saw, we see them drive at Whitesville. They were one of the top of their class. And just seeing how they drove the car, seeing, at a young age, it's hard to understand a lot of what, you just see a car, you like the colors of it, that's kind of what you go with. But I was, as a driver, even at a young age, watching them drive and watching how they drove and seeing what the car looked like. I've seen Frankie Bartlett have a car that looks, getting a wreck or whatever, fender, and drive that car. And to me, that's more impressive than anything.
Right.
Whenever you can take a car and change how it performs, or it's going to change, and you can still perform with it. Just like whenever I went to Windy Hollow and I was young and watched Paul Miles.
There's one right there.
And I watched him break the left front tire hanging off of it, and he's just packing it. Just have it up in the air, packing it. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen somebody do with a car. And that's why when I was young, I liked watching Paul Miles on dirt. And then watching John with the 100 late model, watching Frankie in the street stock. I mean, these were guys they can take things with a car and do something that nobody else could. So that's why I kind of really liked watching them, you know, especially John. He's proven it. He can get in a different car and perform.
Right.
That's why, you know, a lot of people don't like him, but Kyle Busch in
Yep.
NASCAR, he can get in any car, he can get in a truck, he can get in for any team and perform.
Right. He knows what he needs out
Right.
of that of whatever.
You know, you might not like him as a personality, but he's a driver. And that's the way I looked at John and all these guys growing up, you know, from dirt to asphalt, the absolute will to drive is always there.
Right.
And it was great to watch that. And that's where I wanted to be, you know.
Right.
I didn't think I could do it. You know, I remember watching John race and James Vincent. No,
Yep.
they ran all together. And I was like, man, I can't do that. Like, you know, I told Dad, like, man, it's like it looks stressed. I mean, I'm stressed out at a young age watching them.
Yeah.
And like, there's no way I could do that. But now we do it at a you know.
And James, James is 2018 Street Stock champion
Right.
at Kentucky Motor Speedway, so still running competitive.
And he always had a good car.
Right.
You know, he's a painter. He does a great paint. I remember seeing the inside of his roof of one of his cars when I was a little kid. I think it had a Joker on it, and it was inside the car on the roof.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's awesome. You know, like who would do that? Like you don't even see it. He does. But
Yeah.
I just was in the pits and looked inside the car and looked up, and there it was. And but watching all them compete again, and Scott Greer, another one. I mean, watching all them guys compete at that age, you know, when I was little, and watching them drive was amazing. And like, man, I was like, if I ever get there, that's what I want to do. And we got there, and now we've gotten to where we can do that. Go to Salem, 60 cars, and we can compete with it. We race with them. You know, we're in the running every time we go there. So that's what I wanted to do, is be kind of like how they are. When the car changes, you got to change, you got to adapt. And that's why I kind of praised them as a young kid watching them too. You know,
Right.
I mean, as a Cup standard, Mark Martin was my guy. But I liked having, you know, I like watching him run. But watching these two guys at a local standpoint was great. I mean,
Right.
And the car we have was, you know, our 6 car that we won with at Salem was Frankie Bartlett's, built by Kenny Lawson. To have that car in my possession, you have to do something with it. You know,
Right.
you don't get a Legends car like that and
Hey.
not do nothing with
Yeah,
it.
just be like, well, I got it, but, you know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it happens all the time. You have a good driver, a great car, and somebody gets it, and it's not that they're not a great driver. It's just they don't have the connection, or they don't have something there, and you know, the car's got it to perform. It's just something's lost.
Right.
And, you know, there's nobody that ever sells a car and buys a car and they don't change something. You know, the car's going to change. And like our car, I mean, the way it is today is nowhere near the same when Frankie had it.
Yeah.
But at the time frame when Frankie had it, it was an elite car.
Right.
And I mean, Kenny Lawson did an excellent job on that car. And you know, you have a driver like Frankie in it, it's going to be dangerous. You know, he's going to do some damage with it. He's going to prove himself. He's running good with it. Salem, I believe. I know, you know, everybody knows what he did at Whitesville.
Oh, absolutely.
And same thing with John. And you know, a lot of times you watch the best, and you watch the best drivers, and you praise the best drivers because they are good at what they do. But I liked watching them more for the fact of what they can do whenever they weren't supposed to do it.
Right.
You know?
Against adversity.
Right. Whenever the tides were turned and they weren't supposed to do that, they did it.
Well,
So-
you know, and you talk about that when those cars are going to change. You know, if you knock a fender off one, if you knock a nose off one, you know, as aerodynamically independent maybe as they would be more at Salem, you know, more air moving across
Right.
the car than you would at Whitesville,
Right.
shorter track. But then you'd have, you know, the car is going to change. It's just like a cup car. Like Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove to the front with a hole in the nose the size of a pumpkin, you know, and still was able to be competitive. But the car changed, you know, and to see what those guys can do, you knock the nose off one, a lot of the handling's going to go away. Then them guys are still running up front, you know. Same thing with you.
Right, like a couple weekends ago, we ran Whitesville, got in a little scuffle at the beginning, first lap. It happens. Knocked the nose off of it, knocked the tail end off
Right.
of it. And I know the toe end was knocked off of it. I mean, I knew it didn't drive very well at all. The car was actually in a bad state. But I talked to John on radio. I was like, "What? You know, we're really tight. We can't turn. The car's just in. You know, what are you gonna do?" He's like, "Well, nose knocked off of it. It's gonna feel that way." And So I felt like right then at that very point is, could I win the race? I don't know yet, but we're gonna have to change what I'm doing to make the. And we actually drove the car back to fourth, and we ended up getting spun later. And we had the front bumper we had a bar sticking out. It was dangerous, so we brought it in, parked it. But to drive the car back to fourth, that was great, to be able to do that, just because the fact of what I've learned from past years is the fact of that you just got to make the car, you got to change, you got to make the car. It's not going to do what it was doing earlier, so now you got to change. A lot of people, it's hard for a lot of people to change, and that's what you have to do in that situation. And watching John, Frankie, and all them growing up, they knew how to adapt in a situation. So that's why, like at Salem, Whitesville, anywhere we go, the situation, the racing, you know how it is. Nothing goes to plan.
No, it don't. No,
so
absolutely.
You got to learn to adapt in the situation and move forward.
Well, do you think, and I want you to talk about that behind the wheel, and we'll get off that and go to a couple other things, but, and I don't know if you've ever talked to John about this or anything like that, but, do you get in that car and that there's been something happened? The toe was knocked out and things like that, and it's not going to drive.
Right.
So now there's two schools of thought there. And I've been there myself, there's two schools of thought. I can be like, well, heck with it. It's over now. It's junk. Or you can say, all right, it happened. Now where do we go from here? How do we move forward? And now, just like you did, you were able to drive that car up to fourth. Adversity and things happen, but you were able to drive that car back up to fourth, and you said, we got to do something here. Mm-hmm. It ain't going to drive right. But it doesn't matter. Let's make it work.
Well, I mean, whenever you have something like that happen, first thing you got to think of is, if you do try to continue, if you think you can make it change and make it work, that's great. But if you think you don't want to tear up more equipment in the long run, so like if I knew the car wasn't going to make it, like if I knew it was going to be, I mean, it was a handful,
right?
But if I think it was going to be an uncontrolled handful, it'd probably be best to bring it in.
Right.
Because not only are you going to tear up yourself, you're going to tear up somebody else's equipment.
There's no need in that.
And there's no need in tearing all that up whenever you know that the car's already in the state it is. It's hard to do that because as a driver, that's what we're there for. But, I felt like the car was at a state where it could be drove. It's just I had to change to make it drive. Had to use, had to drive it with the throttle more at that time, at that point. But it's hard to change to that, but you have to make the change. And if it's going to be a change that you think you can make it work, then you do it. You just don't lay down on it.
Right.
I mean, it's time to lay down on it and call it whenever you think you're a threat to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else.
Right.
We don't want to do that. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, just watching that and then trying to do it myself. And we've done it at Salem when we won the Halloween and doing it out there. The result wasn't what we wanted, but overall it was a learning experience again, and always trying to stay hungry with it.
Right. Well, one thing I do want to ask you about, and we've talked about a lot of things, and you can harken back to when you started and when you started learning from a young age. But these kids these days, and we talked about it, getting kids involved and people like that, but, somebody just coming into the sport wants to get started in this stuff, and it doesn't matter what level they're wanting to get started in, but what's your advice for some of those people coming in? What do they need to do, just starting out from your perspective?
Make sure you have positive energy. Make sure you have a positive people around you.
Right.
And make sure, if you want to be competitive, you got to make sure you give everything you got for it. My wife and kids mean the world to me. Me being able to go racing, and takes time from them. I have a newborn going to be here in November.
Wow.
So yeah, it's hard because this is something that, I love racing, but it don't pay the bills.
No.
But in the long run, you have to be able to dedicate to it.
Right.
And, it's not so much the fact of, like, when racing turns into a job, it's probably to me, it's time to stop.
Yeah.
It's whenever it's no longer fun to do, it's time to change. But you got to make sure you have fun with it, and you got to be able to change. You got to be able to learn. You got to be able to grow. So as a new person coming in, just make sure you surround yourself with the right people to guide you in the right direction and give you make sure they're going to give you 100%.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to give 100% back. And there's no sport out there that can tell me any different. Football, baseball, when you give 100% and you really try to learn, that's whenever results come.
Right.
Just make sure you have fun with it. Give 100%, give all you got, take your time with it, be patient. You can't win it everything on lap one.
No, you can't.
You're not going to win it out the gate. Just be really patient, and your time will come. Don't take care of your car, take care of your equipment, take care of just take care of your own stuff. Take care of everybody, take care of your stuff, takes care of everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it really just be patient. I mean, it's going to get frustrating. We all get frustrated as a driver, as a crew chief, as a crew member. You're
Right.
going to get frustrated. But just be patient. Things happen. You got to realize it. You got to be very open-minded in the sport, but it's a very emotional sport.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, racing's a very, it's big motors, and it's like a manly sport, but it's one of the most emotional sports I've ever seen.
I ain't never seen so many crybabies
Right.
in one sport.
I mean, it's the most emotional sport you'll ever see. So, just be patient, and the emotions will come and go. It's part of the sport.
Well, you talk about those old, remember the old NFL films and back in the 70s and 80s, and they're like the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat and all this stuff. I think that holds true more so in racing than, football's bad beats and things like that. But sometimes you can see a loss coming. But you look at, what happens on a racetrack, and in two corners, it can either go all the way or it can be all there for one guy, and it's a heartbreaker, and you drop them like that.
Well, racing, that's what's different than most sports is, football, you can throw an interception. You can bounce back from it.
Yeah.
In baseball, you can let up a home run, and your team can bounce back from it. In racing, like you said, that one mistake at Whitesville changed everything for me.
Right.
That one incident on lap one changed everything for the whole race.
Right.
And it's hard to bounce back. It's harder to bounce back from it in a race car than it is any other sport. And it's just you just got to have the will to do it.
Yeah.
In a football game, a baseball game, it's the same concept. It's very competitive. It's you have to be able to adapt in situations. But in this sport, their sport the other sports are a little different. Our sport is at a high speed.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to adapt on the fly really quick.
Well, things happen so quickly.
Yes, I mean that's a lot of it. Like, as a driver, I'm always thinking ahead. Sometimes it hurts you, sometimes it can help you. But like at Salem and the Halloween race, you always have to be leery of what's around you, and be really patient of what's going on around you. Always be looking farther ahead, not right at the edge of the car. You got to be looking, and that's kind of what helps you stay out of trouble a lot.
Right.
And it's just that's what it falls back on. It's just you got to be able to adapt, change, overcome, and realize that things are going to happen quick, and when it does happen quick, it's a game changer. It's a big changer for the whole event.
Well, you could sit around, you guys are riding in a truck up there on whatever day you're going up there. Say it's a Friday, and this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. Okay, you go to practice. No, okay, car's not quite, we need to fix this, that, and the other. Then you go through, get your starting spot and everything like that. And okay, all right, what's our plan for today? Well, we're going to pit stop X amount of lap. We're going to, I want to make sure that I do this, and this is where I'm going to run, things like that. 5 laps into the race, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, that plan could go out the window, and you're like, oh, time to make a new plan. You know what I mean?
It's always having an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Salem will talk. I mean, it's great because we'll sit there in the pit before the race, and we'll all talk strategy. And it's amazing how many drivers you see run the race and that, we all end up on the same strategy. Because a lot of times we know what the best strategy is, but we always throw out other strategies. If this happens, we'll do this, or if this happens, we'll have to do this. Because if you don't have that game plan, it could cause a lot of confusion. And especially, when you run a 50-lap race, it's a little it's a little different. But when you run a 200 lap race, you got a lot more strategy involved, especially with fuel. You got to have tires.
Well, you never know how many cautions you're going to catch. You
Right.
don't know how many. I mean, you never know when there's going to be an accident. It could happen. I mean, just split second, and you never know where it's going to happen.
Well, like when people put right side tires on at the Halloween race, if you get a caution at 110, do you get it then or do you wait?
Right.
What's the chances of when you get another one? It's a strategy. So do you take them? Do you wait? And if you wait and you don't get another one for really long, did you wait too long?
Right.
You don't want to go under green.
Now you don't want to, and you don't want to sacrifice track position.
Right. So I mean, it's one of the king of strategies up there that I've seen that's really hard to compete with strategy is Chuck Barnes Jr. He's always got a strategy, and he's done that in late models when he ran ARCA, when he ran street, everything. He's very good at strategies, and John's really good at strategies as well. It's just it's almost turning into who's got the better strategy by the end of the day. And 4th of July, we had a better strategy. He had a different strategy. He came in and got tires later. Well, we already had the track position. And it was just, we had a good strategy, and it worked. Brett had the same strategy we did the same thing. It's just, we had the track position.
Right.
And if the roles were reversed, it could have went his way. But
and knowing how to work the scoring equipment could be a very big game changer.
Yeah,
as well.
it can be.
We won't go into we won't go into that. So, but that is a big deal, and that's a game I love to play. And I've never run at Salem Speedway. I've been up there for several races, and especially those big long ones. And I love to sit up there in the stands, and think about. Well, and they changed the format, I guess, a year or so ago, whenever you've got it's mandatory pit stops, X amount of laps in the first 75 or something, and the first, something like that.
It's you have to make a pit stop before 100.
Right.
I know years ago there was no tire rule. Now there's a 2-tire rule.
Right.
You got to at least finish on the 2 tires you start on. Yeah, I don't understand. Like some of the rules I understand, some of them I don't.
Right.
Which that's every time you go somewhere. I think what kind of hurts Salem on the Halloween race right now is every time we've been up there, a rule's been changed.
Right.
And it's too much. Like right now, I don't know what the rules are going to be until I get there.
Yeah.
Because they're going to change something. Like this year's 4th of July, it was so hot, they changed the rule right there on the spot, which it was a good call. It was, 100 lap red flag. And like a kind of reset, and that was a good thing for the drivers, for the crew members, and I mean, I like the open pit stops. It's fast but it costs more. You got to have more people. We got to have more, So I mean, the rules always changing up there, and especially for the Halloween. Like last year, we had a good run going, and the restarts were a big deal, especially for me. We ended up, a lot of green white. Like 2015, I was in the lead, and I won it on a green white checkered. And last year, I lost one on a green white checkered. There was a rule in place for that before, but they changed it to where it was open. The track was open, and it changed.
Right.
And whenever that change happened, that's whenever the conflict came in of jumping restarts, or who starts the race. Do we start it? Did the flagman start it?
Where's the zone? Do we pick up the throttle in 3 or what?
Right. And I mean, I was upset with the fact of after last year's Halloween race, of course,
Oh, absolutely.
I led a lot of laps
crazy.
and lost it in the last 2, and Chuck Barnes Jr. ended up winning the race, and of course I'm upset about it. Anybody's going to be upset. I mean, nobody wants to lose a race that way, but do I fault Chuck for if they're going to if they allow it, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
And we talked about it afterwards, and everything was fine. He's an excellent driver. Brett's an excellent driver. That's what makes it so fun to compete with him. But I mean that's kind of the problem is this year there's going to be a different rule somewhere. I'm sure there will be. Whatever they do up there at Salem, they got to find a good rule set, and they got to stay with it. It's okay to make minor adjustments. But I mean, every year's been something pretty major. We go to the drivers' meeting and we're like, well, let's just see what's going to happen this year,
Right.
And we hear about it and they talk about it, and it's like, well, that's completely different than last year. Then we'll come back next year and I'm like, well, we're going to do this.
Right.
I think last year was the first year that they did. You have to pit once before 100.
Right. Maybe I don't want to pit it.
Maybe I don't want to. You know,
That's
I
right.
don't have to. A lot of guys came in on the first. You know, we get a caution pretty early.
Yeah.
A lot of guys came in and just stopped, and went back out. And that's their before 100 stop. You know,
Right.
why make somebody do that?
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of where it got to, is why do that? But then again, you know, some people it helped them.
Yeah.
And it just, like you said, it goes back to strategy. And with that deal, it just changed everybody's, you know, every strategy we had coming into this race, it just changed it again. So you just got to keep your head on a swivel with it. You know, you always got to be looking for a different angle. And we've gotten better about it. And John's always good at it. And just make sure whoever comes, a lot of times over at Salem, like this year, the Halloween race, the Halloween 200 is going to be awesome. I know people that don't even like racing to go to that race, and they go every year.
Oh, if you go, I mean, it is worth the trip.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing how they start the race 3 wide, and you know, it's for a fan standpoint, from a fan's view, it's absolutely nail-biting race. For a driver, it's really stressful at the beginning, but it's great. I
was going to ask you about that before we move into social media, like we said we were going to. I want to ask you about that. How much different is it? The tradition always been the Halloween 200's 3 wide start.
Right.
You know, and I think it's all peel draw for position and things like that. So, you know, 3 wide start, it's something to see. They go around there, and we've seen 4 wide salutes to the fans and things like that, but it's always double foul. But that race, you know, if you're in the middle, right in the middle lane, in the middle of the field, I wouldn't even begin to think of what that feels like.
I was last year. I started. One thing they did change in the rules where they went off practice times, where the first half the field's off, you know, is faster times. That way you don't have somebody who's really slow starting on the front row, somebody getting a wreck, not make it, not know what the car is, and they start on the front row. Kind of made it a lot safer. But last year I started in the middle, and man, it's rough. I mean, it's where you don't want to be. I mean, the outside is where everybody wants to be, but
Right.
we don't qualify. We draw.
Right.
So, I mean, your starting position's based off of fate of whoever. Like, well, I'll pick a number in my mind from 1 and 20, and all my friends there helping that day, they'll choose a number. Whoever got the best number is going to draw for me, you know.
Yeah.
Whoever can pull out a better number is going to be the one who tries to choose my starting position. The best one that's ever drawed was the one I drawed couple years ago. But I mean, it's the most hectic, entertaining start of I'll do all year. Because man, it's like, I tell everybody, it's like going in downtown Nashville during rush hour and everybody just taking off.
They throw the green.
And it's you know, you get nervous, you know, like you ever go to the beach and you drive through Nashville and there are all the cars everywhere and you're all, that's the Halloween race. That's the start. But we love it. That's why we do it, you know.
Yeah.
But once everything files out, it turns more racy. It's used to be the enduro, but now it's more turned into
It's just a 200 lap race.
It's a 200 lap race now, and there's more cars up there that's more competitive to win it than years ago.
Yeah.
And
But, you know, you'd have guys pulling in on, you know, trailers, and they'd show up an hour before the race and unload and things like that, and you'd had 80, 90 cars, 100
Right.
cars in it, and you really had to pick through the riffraff there, and not that anybody, you know, hey, it's great they brought their car and won a race, and that's a wonderful thing. It really is. But again, it has transitioned in the last few years. You know, a little less starters than it used to be. Still, a lot of cars show up, but
Right.
a little less starters than what it used to be. But I mean, from that lap 1 to lap 200, it is a race now, and then people are on it.
oh yeah, it's the most entertaining race. Yet, you know, even I've watched them, I've been in them, I've competed in them, and I've won one. And hopefully, in a couple weeks, we can say we won 2. I know they actually, I think since Bola Masters has took over, they threw in winning the $5,000 is great, but I want the jukebox you threw in there.
I heard about the jukebox,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm more excited about that, you know, than a lot of it, you know. But yeah, I mean, just from a fan standpoint of view, from a driver, I can't stress it enough. I have people who absolutely don't watch racing, never cared about it. They go to that one, they're like, yeah, I got to go to the Halloween race again.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why it's so impressive, so unpopular. So it's such a popular race because of the format of it. And they're trying to change it, and a lot of it's for safety, which is completely understandable. But I think some things we kind of need to go back to the roots with.
Right.
And I think it would be more successful.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't need to change it if it ain't broke.
Right. From a safety standpoint, I get it. But for some of it, just kind of, I think if we kind of changed it and went back to some of the roots of what began the Halloween race, then I think it would come back a lot more. I mean, it's great now today. I mean, it's really popular still, but to keep that alive, I think go back to the roots of it would help.
Well, I do want to ask you about this, and we talked about it a little bit ago. Social media is a big deal these days.
Right.
Your cell phone, you got Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and all everything.
Siri.
Right, Siri. Yeah, she does it, but she still doesn't understand. We probably could ask her now; she might understand, but
yeah,
she don't understand why they changed the rules of Halloween 200.
No.
But what do you think about social media and racing and how it is these days, and good and bad? What's your opinion on it?
I look at social media for racing. It's very impactful. I think it's a good thing. A lot of it. I think a lot of it helps. The communication is a lot better, but from a driver standpoint, it helps to communicate, find parts, to communicate, to talk to other drivers, learn about other tracks, and YouTube. You can ask other drivers before you get there. But I think the negative part of it is the fact of that's why people don't go to races. You can people find out the information online. I think Speed 51 is great that they cover races, but why would somebody want to go to Bristol to watch the short track nationals whenever they can buy it on Speed 51 and watch it from home?
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, the excitement of being at a track is nowhere near the same. But I mean, we use social media more of a way to see results anymore than to actually be there, and that can be it's a negative. I mean, there's a positive and negative to most things, and there's just one of them. I use it a lot for, I don't go to a lot of dirt races. I work a lot. Weekends I work weekends. I have 2 young kids, and so I use social media to see what happened that weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's great. That it's a great thing to help me out because I'm busy, with my life and what I got going on. But then again, it can be a negative because it's almost overpowering a lot of sports. That's why, NFL, that's why social media really can take a hurting to it.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, it's a push-pull factor, but, I mean, great for some things and it hurts a lot in other areas. So, I like it for the fact of I can see and learn more from other tracks. Like whenever I go to a track I haven't been to, I get online, start researching it a little bit, seeing where everybody runs, see where everybody's doing, see who finishes well, see who to watch. But I think in the long run, it kind of, since social media has picked up, it's really that's when you've seen racing decline, especially asphalt racing. It took a decline in social media. The higher social media goes, the more of a decline it could be. You just got to, as a person, you just got to remember to get back to the roots of what racing is, and being there to support the event. That's where it's at. And the Bristol Short Track Nationals, I mean, that's an excellent event. It's great. I know for dirt, I know for Tyler Nicely and them, Gateway. That's a big event. I mean, I follow that, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, the dome race, yeah.
That's awesome. And it's great that you can have the chance to watch it on social media. But like I said, there's nothing like being there. So, I mean, social media, it can play a good factor or a bad factor in it.
Well, that is an interesting take on it. And you mentioned something, and I want to roll into the state of racing. We do this with everyone that we have on here. You said that asphalt racing, and you can speak to that, or you can speak to dirt, whatever you want, but you kind of feel like racing's on a decline, or do you think where we're at right now is okay? Can we be better? Is it not as good as it should be?
Well,
how do you feel about it?
I think dirt's doing really well. I see a lot of dirt. I see more people roll across my Facebook page on dirt than I do asphalt anymore. I think asphalt is at a low I mean, has it? Some places have gotten better. Salem does really well with the street stocks. Here, not so much. The Whitesville's very demanding on a car, very hard on a car. You know, it's all turned into it's a big money thing, to where, you know, like for this local area, it's really hard that you got Nashville, Winchester, Salem. No, those tracks. This track is remote. Whitesville's a remote location versus, you know, Salem, Louisville is 30 minutes away.
Right.
And the guys up in Indy who run street stock, they got a lot of options. They have Winchester, Anderson, LORP, and then down at, you know, anybody Alabama, Tennessee area, well, you got the fairgrounds.
Right.
And then I don't know if you still do or not, Highland Rim.
Yep.
You know, you still have Highland Rim.
Still there.
And I know they closed for a little while, or they had it down, but I knew they raced last year. And I mean, so why would you come to Whitesville when you can go to Highland Rim? You know, you don't have to spend hotel, you don't have to travel as far, you don't have expensive fuels, and so I mean, I think that kind of what hurts. And then in the area, you know, we used to have a lot of drivers from Owensboro, Philpott. You know, that's where they were coming, and just the expense of it, it's took them out. Now, nothing to take from a dirt guy. I love watching it. It's great. It's amazing. But I think on dirt, it's more forgiving. On dirt, I think dirt's a little bit more forgiving, and asphalt, I mean, it's aggressive. I mean, it's a lot of strain on a car, and man, I just love driving a dirt car once.
Yeah.
You know, I've been itching to do it, but yeah, I think it could be better. Now, something I think that I personally, we talk about it all the time. You know, Whitesville has a big race, a 4,000 to win, and then Salem will have one, and then LORP will have one. I've always thought it'd be great if you could have all the tracks get on the same page, and actually, who's to say, you know, if they all canceled one of their big money events, and you know, what's the main event everybody watches every year? The Super Bowl.
Right.
Everybody watches that. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if you have all these tracks come together, the money that they would have spent sponsor-wise and track-wise to run that race for 4,000, put that money together and move it between all the tracks.
I have just basically a big, huge...
And not only pay your winner, you know, make it a 20,000 to win, but pay your field.
Oh, absolutely.
Pay your field a lot better.
Yes.
And, you know, it could start at Whitesville. And then next year, it goes to Salem. Then, you know, I think that would be bigger than even the Bristol race. Because the Bristol race, you know, it's a big race, you know, because it's Bristol. But if you put in that kind of money and all the tracks are on the same page with that, you'd see more cars than you had ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, I think that'd be a great thing. And that would help out locally. And that would help out as asphalt as a whole. But just to get everybody on that page I don't even think a lot of them's on the same book.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
just to get them on the same page, it'd be really hard. But yeah, I think asphalt racing has taken a downfall, but there's a chance to bring it back and make it a lot better than what it is. It's just taking the right steps to do it.
Right. And you know, I think you're right. It is getting people on the same page. You know, I mean, with your CRA cars and things like that, you know, they come into Whitesville, and unfortunately they didn't get to run the race this year, but they got to come, you know, normally run one race at Whitesville. You know, I guess it's different. I don't know if it is different. You may be able to say that, but, you know, are there things you have to change? And I'm not just talking about suspension setup-wise, but are there things that don't fly at certain places that do in other places? Or if you just run that series, like a normal street stock guy, could he get into that CRA race and, you know, be okay, or would he have to change a lot of things, vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on. It depends on the track. Like Whitesville, their rule set's a little bit different than CRA. They say, you know, it's predominantly a CRA rules, but I mean, Whitesville, to get the car count, you know, a lot of people bring cars, and you know, you don't want to turn anybody away.
Right.
But I mean, it can be hard. It can be difficult, but you know, the tracks have. They try to stick to their strict guidelines, especially Salem. And yeah, I mean, it can be a lot of work to change to go run different series. That's why dirt's so great. You can, most of the tracks have a pretty, that I know of, that have a pretty close setup. And that's why you see people can go from track to track to track on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
But it's not mainly, can the cars be changed over to go run a different series to race and asphalt? Absolutely. It's not like it's can't be done. It's just it goes back to the expense of what you have to do to get the car to do
Right.
that. From between the brakes and the rear ends. Whitesville, I've burnt several rear end gears up, and to get done running a 200 lap race at Whitesville and try to go up to Anderson and do it in the next day, it's just
It's just not
I don't
hard to
know. I
do
don't
it.
think the car would make it, and it's just a different strain on the car itself. I mean, every track has a different rules. CRA is different than Salem. Salem's a little bit different than CRA and different than Whitesville. I mean, but it can be changed over. It's not like it's unimaginable.
Yep.
It's not like, oh my gosh, I got to do this huge deal. It's not that bad. I mean, it can be done, but it's just the fact of the expense to do it constantly. I mean, it would take a lot, and it takes a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And away from your family. So, yeah, I mean, I enjoy running the CRA. I think it's great. That's one of the most popular asphalt series around. And I like the fact that they come to Whitesville. It brings a lot to it. And Brad's done, I mean, for what Brad can do and what he's been doing, I mean, it's hard, especially from his, I mean, it's not just Brad. Everybody's like, oh, Whitesville car count and everything. Well, it's Whitesville. Salem street stocks just kind of went down a little bit. Nashville street stocks, I mean, Nashville has a good showing, but, I mean, we're talking Nashville. I mean,
Yeah.
the population is huge. And same thing with Louisville and Indianapolis.
Right.
So
And only have 20, 30 cars. It's kind of crazy.
right. So I mean, for what Brad's had to overcome for Whitesville, it is hard.
Right.
And that's why you can't you don't fault Whitesville for they don't have very many street stocks today. Well, look at the area. How many street stocks can you count in this area?
Right. How many
There's
are
not
there?
very- there's not very many. And well, there's guys in Louisville. Well, why would they come here whenever they have Salem right there? So I mean that's kind of what makes it hard for Whitesville. Years ago it wasn't that bad, but like you said, the cost went up. People don't travel as far. That's what really took a hurting.
Right.
And I know there's rumors right now going around that the fairgrounds is going to close. I know they're bringing the soccer complex in. We raced there once this year in the late model. If they lose that track, I feel like it could be. It's tragic to lose it because that's a historic place.
It
But
is very historic.
could it help Whitesville? You never know. I mean, it might. I mean, losing a track might help here, but we don't want to lose any tracks.
No, absolutely.
I mean, that's not a way to gain cars at a track. It's just we want to gain more cars at Whitesville to help the car count it's got to be more a community thing. We got to have more people have cars. We got to have more people want to race. We got to have more people, but then it turns into a cost thing. And then if it turns into a cost thing, and you try to make it where the cars cost more, more
Right.
affordable here, well then they're not going to be able to go to Salem and compete.
No.
So I mean, he's kind of at a hard situation.
Right.
And I mean, I appreciate everything Brad's done. I mean, he don't have to do it.
No, you don't have to do it.
And he does it.
Right.
And same thing goes with Westerfields and whenever they opened back up out at Windy Hollow, and I mean, both these tracks were closed for a little bit, and these guys have done everything they can to bring them back. And from my standpoint, everybody's like, "Oh, you don't run Whitesville." I can't. I'd love to run Whitesville every weekend. I mean, it'd be great. But we work. We have a lot going on in our own lives where we can't. And I'd love to be able to support that more as a driver, but it's hard to do it with we all grow. I'm married, have kids, so but for them to do that and go against that is awesome. Like, I think it's great. Like, and we should be able to support them. And we do. We try our best to support them, and it's hard to please everybody.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
for Brad and them, I mean, it's you.
Oh, I'm sure he hears it, weekly.
Right. It's hard to make everybody happy in any division. But I think they've taken a lot of steps to try to bring it back, and it's just it turns into a money thing. It all falls back on a dollar, and it's unfortunate that it's came to that. But like I said, though, I think we could bring it all back if all the tracks decided to. Like I seen it the other day on social media, a track closed for rain, dirt track. Say, yeah, we're closed for rain. But they promoted another track on their page. I was like, that is great. Like, that is awesome. This track said, hey, we're closed. But Windy Hollow's still open. So, like, they let their community and their drivers and everybody know to go here.
Right.
I think that on asphalt, they're so focused on pulling other cars from other tracks to get them to run here, and they throw in their events and they schedule their events around other places. It makes it hard. But I was just on Facebook just scrolling the dirt track, said, hey, due to the Mother Nature, we're not running. But make sure you check these places out because they're running. I'm like, that's what it should be about. That's awesome. And
well, heck, I remember the days it'd be on a Sunday afternoon. We'd be all out at Windy Hollow, pits would be packed, everything like that. Here come a rainstorm. Rains the place out.
Right.
What'd everybody do? Loaded up their cars and took them to Whitesville.
Right.
And you went out there and unloaded, and everybody there was 50 cars there, and then the next time you turn around, there's 100 cars.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I think it'd be a good thing. Everybody needs to get on the same page and work together. Dirt guys have been doing it. They're successful. I've seen them promoting each other, helping each other out, and the asphalt tracks, I think, could and should do the same thing. But once they all get on the same page, I think everything will pick up.
I think it would too. Blake, one thing we do here is we do promote, and we do love sponsors. And I know you've got some that help you out and some people, and talk about your crew and your sponsors, man, and everybody that makes it possible for you to get to do what you do.
First, I'd like to thank my mom and dad. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And mom and dad has always been huge to me. John Hayden, Mach 5 Race Cars and Parts. That's, I tell everybody at Salem, if you want a car to do what ours does, bring it to Mach 5.
Yeah.
He's going to make it get there. My lovely wife and my two boys, they're gearheads, love race cars. If they don't want to race, they don't have to. If they want to race, we're going to do it.
Right.
I have another one on the way. I appreciate, so much her letting me do this and come down here and talk to you guys. And,
yeah, we appreciate that.
And be able to take off weekends and be gone all weekend to go racing. She's understanding about it. Brian Hickey, he's been with me since I was a little kid. Goes racing with me everywhere. All the guys that come with us, I mean, they're taking time away from their family to do this with us. So, I mean, I'm really fortunate to have the guys I got around me. Eric Hayden, Pedley's Garage. Eric's, he's been a huge help in our success of what we've been able to accomplish in the last 3 years. It's just great. Got a great group of guys, and that's why we can perform better. And my wife and my family really support me, and everybody out there that does support us. I mean, I don't know any other way to thank them. I mean, that's why we do it, is for them. We race for us, for the thrill, the racing. We're competitive. But also, I like having, it's for fans too. We want to give them something that they ain't seen. We want to try to, that's why when I go racing, I want to have something exciting. That's why we're there for. And I appreciate it so much. It's a great feeling. But yeah, my dad and my mom has really been huge for me. My dad my dad and my mom have really been everything for my racing, and my dad really has been he's an open source. He's open to try anything. He's open to adapt, and open to change, and it's hard to do. And I can't appreciate that enough out of my dad. But the knowledge behind what we do and everything that makes us great is John Hayden.
Right.
And but yeah, it's I got a really good crowd around me, and that's what really helps out.
Well, that's awesome, man, and that's what it takes. You know what I mean? And that's in essence of it, support from the family, because they've got to understand. That's one thing about it. Wife, especially a pregnant wife, has got to be understanding about she's got these needs, but honey, go do what you love to do, and I'll be here waiting, or I'll go, when I can. And especially, your family and then your crew, that they got to be loyal. And it's hard, again, like you said, it's hard for them to maybe give up their time with their family, give up their time with their kids to go do something for you.
Right.
And to make you competitive.
And that's the great thing about it. They don't have to do it. And if they can't do it sometimes, that it's understanding.
Yeah.
But I've actually had to miss a race, when my son was born. I'm not going to miss that. The race will be there. My son being born won't be every day. And I'm just really thrilled that my kids both love cars. They were running around the house yesterday. One of them had my helmet and gloves on. It's funny. Kids just kill me. My kids they're absolutely great. And just having that support from the kids and my wife and my mom and dad and Mach 5, John Hayden, all these guys. It's just, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
That's what keeps the fun in it, and hopefully we have a lot more successful years to come, and hopefully we have a really successful race at Halloween 200 in a couple weeks. That's our last big one for the year, and that's the big bash. And there's gonna be a lot of good cars. There always is.
Yeah.
But I think we have a car and we have a team that can do it again.
So October 21st, we can see you on the high banks of Salem. You're going to be up there all weekend, and that's going to end the season for you guys. Any plans next year to do anything different, or are you just guys going to keep doing what you're doing?
We're going to try to do a little bit more late model racing. We're going to try to go back to Nashville quite a bit. If all goes well, we might try to spread our wings a little bit more and the late models and try to venture out. But we'll never get away from the street car. We're always going to have the Halloween, 4th of July, and some Whitesville races in our schedule.
Right.
So, but we might try to shift gears a little different next year and try to do a little bit more of the late model. We had a little bit of a rough start this year with it, and we had a couple races, and things didn't go our way. But 2019 is a different year, so we might try to do something a little different with it. But street car is going to be where it's at. It's always is.
The old money maker the money spender, really.
Yeah, the late model has been. It's been a rough one, but the street car, when I go get in our street car that we run at Salem, I feel comfortable.
Right.
So I just got to get that comfort level with the late model. But once we get it, I think we'll be pretty good at it.
Right. Well, Blake, buddy, from Wes and myself, man, we appreciate it. I'm glad that you accepted our invitation to come on, and it was important, to us to get you on here and to talk, and it's been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. I love it. I think you got more in you. I really do, talk-wise, and especially hopefully on the track as well. But maybe come back, see us here again soon, and let us know what's going on, so we can keep everybody updated on what you're doing, and maybe you can get behind the mic one time and talk to some guests with us.
Oh yeah, I can do that. That wouldn't be a problem at all. I can talk for days. So, but no, I appreciate the invitation. I enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do it again sooner than later.
No, absolutely. And again, you're welcome back anytime. There's always a part 2 reserved for you. And if you just want to come on and just shoot the mess with us and have some fun, then we welcome that too.
All right. Well, I appreciate it so much.
All right. Well, we're going to take our last break here, come back and close this episode out.
Having trouble getting your business vehicle noticed? Want your race machine to look sharp on and off the track? Give Josh Tyler a call at High Octane Wraps and Apparel. They specialize in high-quality vinyl graphics as well as full vehicle vinyl wraps. They can handle jobs of all sizes, whether it's your racing go-kart all the way up to your semi-truck. With a quick turnaround and design and install, you can truly call today and look good tomorrow. Give them a call at 270-929-2605 or stop by their shop located at 2531 West 2nd Street in Owensboro.
And we're back to close this episode out. The green flag's waving on the checkered flag. I don't know. We screwed that up.
Green, white, checker.
Yeah.
We talked about those.
That is the order of the day, green, white, checker. Well, the checker's waving now. And we are at the end of this episode, and man, what another phenomenal episode.
I had a great time.
I did too.
It's we love all of our guests. We appreciate all of our guests, and the stories that we get out of them, and it's a cool thing.
the stories that we beat out of them with a tire iron. No, we don't do that.
Not normally.
Not normally. But
Not normally.
no, man. Hey, Blake had a lot of good stuff to say today, and I'm telling you, those stories. Because here's the thing, and this is what I discussed with him. Maybe you know what his car looks like. You know what that black number 6 looks like.
Yep.
Maybe you know him. You've seen him on Facebook. You've seen him walking around the track, or his wins and accomplishments. But do you know his story?
You do now.
Oh, by golly, you do now.
Well, part of it, because there's more there that we're
Oh, there's
gonna
absolutely a whole lot more. And, he loves to talk. He told us that. Guys, there's stuff that we didn't even get on tape that we sat around for 45 minutes before we ever even start recording, just having a great time sitting there talking and swapping lies and stories. And, man, it's a great time. And then we had to get on the mic, and it was also a great time.
I cracked the whip. I was like, "Come on, man, we got to go."
Well, and he had to get to work, and we don't want to short him on his time because got a family to provide for, got a baby on the way, as we heard that. So congratulations early to them.
Well, I will say to his wife and Blake, I'm sure they've picked it out already, but Nathan Wesley Hillard.
That's a pretty good name.
It's a pretty good name if it's a boy. I'm just saying.
Anyway.
Just saying.
That's it. Let's move on past that because you never know. We don't want to post that on that. But anyway, a lot of great stories, man. If we're talking about, racing at Salem, and I know he does that a lot more than he does at Kentucky Motor Speedway much anymore, but he still tries to run at least one race every year at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and he was going to run the CRA race, I think, at one point, but that got rained out, but then he came back for the 145-lapper Scott Thompson Memorial.
He did.
And, had a somewhat disappointing day, but was running competitively, and not that we expect anything less, for sure.
Yep. I agree, and he's just an amazing competitor, and even though with his accomplishments and accolades, he's humble, he's down to earth. He sat here and just shared stories with us and laughed and cut up, and it's this guys like him are the guys that you want to talk to. They're the guys that
right.
You want to be around because they're positive, they have a great time, they love this sport, they want to see this sport thrive and flourish. And it's a great thing that he does. So I'm thankful and grateful for him.
No, it's awesome, man. And like I said, it's a good time that we had today. And like I said, there's a part 2 in it. If you guys heard it before I came back from the break, man, we told him he is welcome here anytime, just like any of our guests. And don't get it twisted. Today's show's about Blake, so we're going to hype Blake. But anybody is welcome to come back on and talk to us, tell us how you're doing. Tell us what's new since we've seen you last, and that's the beautiful thing about this show is don't wait for us to contact you. Contact us, say, hey, I'd love to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Want to get on there because we might forget. And again, we talked about that, and it's no excuse, guys. It really isn't. But we might forget, and forgive us. We're human, and we both have full-time jobs.
We do.
And we work, and that we do this podcast. We're trying to help Blake get his Hot Lap show off the ground and working on that front. But we're also working on that huge announcement that's coming on November the 3rd. Speedzeum, downtown Owensboro. You don't want to miss it, man. Some legends are going to be there, and the media is going to be there, and Bluegrass Motorsports media is going to be there. So it's going to be a cool time, man. So.
And we do a lot on top of everything else that we do. We do a lot to support and lift up our other, compatriots in the racing community. Your wife Sarah and I spent last weekend out at Robbie Darrington's haunted house.
Absolutely.
Friday and Saturday night we were actors in the haunted house, and it was a great time. Supporting him and the cause that they have there, and we've gone out to Skills VR Arcade, and
I know it was hard for Robbie. Wait before you get to Skills. I know it was hard for Robbie because he couldn't be there opening night, but they didn't wreck any cars without him, so it's not that type of haunted house.
No, not
it's
at
not that kind of scares.
But no, we spent time with Brent and Donnie at Skills VR Arcade, and we're doing some promotion for them and helping them with their business. And if you've got something you want us to promote, like I said last time, if it's your niece's softball game, we'll absolutely promote it. We just want to support everybody in this community that supports us, because we can't do it without you guys, and we are all part of this together.
Well, and we're also looking for not a new place to go or anything, and we appreciate Gabriel. This is our home now, even though my kitchen table is the true home. You know that.
It is.
But a little bit easier for guests to get here. But I'm going to go out on a limb and just say this. The guys at Skills VR were awesome to let us come in there and set up, and that was kind of, one of their conditions for maybe doing the show was, hey, why don't you bring it out here? We were glad to do it.
Absolutely.
And if your business or somebody you know that wants us to come and set up and do a podcast from there, we absolutely don't mind to record in front of everyone and kind of promote your business. And, we've got a big tool to do that. And it's awesome, man. The internet is a big, big thing. If you hadn't noticed.
We've recorded episodes from auto sales lots, car lots. We've done it from wherever. It doesn't matter. We just go anywhere you want us to go.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. We do travel around, and it's not hard for us. To pack up our gear. We don't mind a bid, guys.
Nope.
It takes a few minutes to get it taken down, set up, but that's with anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that it takes other people a little time to do whatever they do. So
that's true.
Not a problem, but we can do that. So if your business, if you're listening and you want us to come, it'd be cool to have you all do an episode from here. Be glad to do it.
And we're not going to charge you. We're just going to show up and
we do that.
We're going to record and we're going to have a good time and give you some promotion.
However,
if you want us to charge you, we can do that on a monthly or a bi-monthly, yearly basis as a sponsor of our podcast.
Right. It's very, very affordable. You would not understand how affordable it is. And if you don't understand how affordable it is, we invite you to contact us because it is important that we do have a little bit of support here. Mm-hmm. We don't mind paying for it, guys. We really don't. And we'll pay for it. And if you don't help us, it's okay. But it just makes things a lot easier when we have a little bit of extra cash that we can get equipment and we can keep doing things like that and make our life a lot easier to take this show to different places.
And you guys, if you've been listening since March, you've heard the quality of the show improve over time, and that's through the help of our sponsors and through Nathan and I learning how to do this better and just being good at what we're doing. And I've said it all along. Neither one of us are going to put our name on something we can't get behind and support. So,
no, that's right.
And we don't expect you guys to either if you do choose to be a sponsor. And again, it's an exclusive club right now. We would like it to be a bigger club. And
it's not an exclusive membership club. It's just exclusive right now to 3 sponsors. And,
right. And those 3 are Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated, High Octane Wraps and Apparel, and Willie's Carbon Dyno Shop.
That's right. So that's we thank them for helping us out. We can't say enough about them.
Agreed.
But who else we can't say enough about is our other sponsors, especially on the race car, the Conway Racing Team, Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, Slingshot Media Group, Red Star Graphics. We appreciate everybody that helps there. Keep the race car going because that's an outlet for me. And as much as I love to podcast, I am a race car driver, and I do love to get out there and sling that thing around on the banks a little bit. And it's a lot of fun for me.
He certainly does.
If you want to find us online, you can find us at ConwayRacingTeam.com. You can also find us at TheBentFenderPodcast.com. If you want to find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team, The Bent Fender Podcast, and also Bluegrass Motorsports Media. Do not forget that. You want to stay tuned to Bluegrass Motorsports Media. It's up and coming, and we'll talk about that again in a second. Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram Conway Racing. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, Overcast, Radio Public, iHeartRadio. Anywhere you can find a damn podcast, we've got it there for you to get. And
if you can't find us, let me know, and I'll make it where we're there.
Right. So if you have a different place that you find podcast and we're not on it, it ain't nothing to get on it.
Nope.
This is episode number 30. We've got a catalog. They're not going to turn us down. It's going to be an awesome thing. So make sure you check that out if you aren't already listening to it, which I don't know how you're hearing my voice right now if you're not listening to it. So maybe it's word of mouth. Somebody's giving you a transcript.
That's cool too.
That's cool. So tell your friends, if we post something on Facebook, make sure you like it, but make sure you share it. Mm-hmm. If you share it, it gets out to a whole lot more people because our friends become your friends, mm-hmm. and your friends become our friends. And that's how Facebook works. If you didn't know, you should go back and watch the movie, Social Network, and they can use it for good. By golly, use it for good. Don't use it for malicious purposes because that's how it started. But, that's how Facebook works. So make sure you share things and comment and tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Be active. And when we shared looking for guests, please help us out. Name
Agreed.
somebody that, heck, we'll go after them like a dog on a bone, man. We really will, and try to get them on the episode for you. If you got anybody else that you want to hear that we haven't got to, you make sure you let us know. Email form, social media, you can just send us a message, or you can give us a phone call. It doesn't matter. We don't hide who we are and where we're going. This weekend, big weekend coming up for motorsports and also different things. You can go down to the Vet City Motorcycle and Music Festival. That's happening in Bowling Green,
Yep.
October 12th and 13th. right here, just coming up in a few days, going to be a big show. National Corvette Museum right there in Bowling Green. See our friends down there. Support them. You're going to have a big time. Lots of food, fun, and music. So it's going to be a good deal. Also this weekend, the American Modified Series season-ending races. Their championship weekend. It's going to be down at Cedar Ridge Speedway. Our friends down there in Morgantown, Kentucky. It's going to be a big show. 2 days. Racing program both days for the local drivers and also the American Modified Series drivers. Big money on the line. Season-ending points on the line. Where do you fit in? Where's it all going to end up? We're going to find out after Saturday night. So
absolutely.
Also, if you're in the mood to drive to Nebo, make sure you're down there and go support our friends at Western Kentucky Speedway right there in Nebo, Kentucky. Beautiful racing facility, a really special place to my heart's where I got my one and only feature win. So it's going to be a pretty cool deal down there. So now, also on top of that, if you want to get the bejesus scared out of you, you need to make it out to the Fright Night Haunted House out there at Diamond Lake Resort, right here in western Davis County. Our buddy Robbie Darrington, the Scroyo himself, man, runs that place, and it's a nice atmosphere for scares. And Wes, my wife, Sarah, they've both been a part of that. They love doing it. They'll scare the pants off of you, scare the pee right out of your bladder, man.
Actually, small story quickly.
Yep.
We caused a girl to pass out from fear in our room.
We apologize to her.
We don't. We did our job right. I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
She got her money's worth.
You knew what you were getting when you got it.
You did. She got her money's worth, and she was with a group, and she was leading the pack with, I guess, her dad right behind her. She was a late teenager, and she passed right out.
She was almost a late teenager.
They helped her out of the room. It was funny. It was great. And this little boy asked Sarah, because she was my quote-unquote victim in the room, he asked her, "Do you need help?" And she said, "Yes." And as he's running out of the room, he said, "I'll pray for you." It was great. It was fun time.
Well, it is. And, I'm not able to be a part of it really myself, just by the way my work schedule falls and my weekends. I've got to work weekends. But it's nice that we can get out and support Robbie, because that's what we do here. We support you just like we support Skills VR Arcade. We love them guys, and we love going over there and doing an episode with them. More to come from there. It's going to be a pretty cool deal.
It is.
Hot Laps of Blake Smith looking to do some episodes from there, certain points during the off season and the racing season. Yep. And so and they're doing big things as well, man. So get out there and check out the simulators. Again, get out to Diamond Lake Resort, get the pants scared off of you Friday and Saturday night. Hey, go Friday night and then go to the American Modified Series. Go down to Nebo. Go to Bluegrass, or go to the Vet City Motorsports Fest.
Yep.
Whatever you can do this weekend to support these causes, get out and do it. It's worth your while. It's worth their while for you to be there.
Agreed.
And it helps them out. So that's our main things. That's our spiel for the day, is support those who support us, and we do that day in, day out. Again, we apologize for the little hiatus on the show. This is our second episode back, and we again thank Donnie Fair and the guys over at Skills VR for letting us come over there and record him. Great episode, and another great episode today with Blake Hillard. We're going to keep, that's our commitment, man. We're going to keep giving it to you just like we can. Really, really good episodes.
Absolutely.
They're all awesome in our book. And we thank everybody that's been on here. Now, another thing to remember is November the 3rd, Kentucky Motorsports Hall of Fame. We've said it 2 or 3 times. We're getting very, very close, man. We're going to be able to let you in on the secret. Big things are happening.
Agreed.
In motorsports, and you're going to love it. We promise you'll love it. If you hate it, don't say anything to me about it, because I'm going to just assume you loved it. Just put a big, goofy smile on your face, and everything will be okay. No,
I agree.
No, we hope you're going to love it. We're guys, this is the biggest thing we've ever done.
Yep.
And it's going to be a good time, man. We've got a lot of players in the game, a lot of things we've had to learn on the fly, and in a short amount of time. So it's going to be a big thing. So guys, remember, November the 3rd, the Speed Gym's where you want to be. The Motorsports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. A lot of big names coming down there. With Tim Banks, been a guest on this show. Michael Waltrip, Nikki Hayden, Jack Boggs. The Green Brothers, they're all getting inducted this year. It's going to be a big deal. And we get out and support them. Army Armstrong's down there. Get out and talk to him, man, when you got a time. You guys were able to go over to the Army Armstrong celebration.
It was fantastic.
At Texas Roadhouse.
It was a super cool thing to see everybody come out and show their love and respect and honor Army for what he's done in his career. And, super humble guy, super amazing guy, just an amazing smile on his face. So
that dude is cool, man.
Yeah, we love Army to death and support everything that he does. So
right. And make sure you do it sooner than later, please.
Absolutely.
He enjoys it. He'd love to talk to you. I know he would. He loves to tell stories. He loves to spin yarns over a 40-plus year career. I mean, this guy's done it all. He's been everywhere and done it all. It's an awesome time. Get out there and support him, in anything that he does. He's a lot of fun to talk to. He really is.
Agreed.
Well, with that, man, we've covered a hell of a lot today, and it's been a great show, another one in the books. Revitalization on the podcast is coming back stronger than ever, so it's a good time, man. It's a good time to be us. Make sure you stay tuned to Bluegrass Motorsports Media. We're going to have a lot of big things coming. The Bluegrass Motorsports Media Radio Network is going to be live here very, very soon, so it's going to be a cool time to be around us. We welcome everybody. We don't turn people away. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reason, because support things for the right reason. Don't have a personal agenda. That's all we ask. Just support motorsports.
Well, one really quick thing, then I'll throw it to you so we can sign off. Just now on Facebook, as a clarification point, the Cedar Ridge just posted, all classes will qualify and 20-lap feature only both Friday and Saturday, except mods. They will qualify heat and feature both nights.
Right. So that's the American Modified Series normal format. They're running that for this event. Just like I said, it's a 2-day event, their season championship. But qualifying, 20-lap features for all classes. Get out and support the local guys just as much as the touring guys. These guys put on a great show down there at every track. It doesn't matter what track you're at, whether at Tri-State Speedway, Rockport Raceway, Cedar Ridge Speedway, Western Kentucky Speedway, Windy Hollow Speedway, Kentucky Motor Speedway, Salem Speedway.
Are we just going to name them all off?
Well, that's the ones in our area. Highland Rim.
Clarksville.
And Clarksville.
All right.
Not and Clarksville. So that's our tracks in our area. Go and support them all. They're all racing all the time. Not all the time in the off season, but you get what I'm saying. So, again, guys, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you supporting us, supporting our guests. Make sure you keep doing that. Thanks to Blake Hillard for being here today. Wes, the Mini Cup, Lou Allen.
Nathan. Pork Chop Conway.
Yeah. Well, we're out of here for this week, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the best up-and-coming motorsports podcast on the internet. Tune in next week to see who we're trading paint with on the Bent Fender Podcast.